Hello and what's up, GSC Pokemon Challenges fam? Welcome back. It's time for the next section in our minimum battle series. We're on to Clair now, and this is going to be absolutely insane. We can see one Pokemon has obviously passed already. It is my personal Arcanine that is sitting up there in the pass column. We've got a ton of member picks. For some reason, Cubone jumped into the completed member picks. I'll get that back up in the normal member picks, but we've got 36 Pokemon that are being supported right now that are going to get run through this section. Then we've got 10 challengers for today. I'm coming in with a little bit smaller set so that we can kind of explore this section of the game, see what might be a wall, and we'll also get in some of those member picks as we go through this, because we've got some starter Pokemon that we definitely need to run. Obviously, we've got our Bulbasaur, Venusaur, and Squirtle up there. We've got our Cyandquil up there, and we've got a brand new member pick that came in just a little too late to get into the previous video, so we'll get it in this time with the Onix that has been added by channel member Yokai. So let's get that going here. But the first thing to look at is, with our 10 challengers, how are we going to actually do against Clair? I think the fire types are really going to struggle here, because unless they have good coverage, they're not really going to have any good moves to use against the dragon, and especially dragon water type. We might be going for some sort of headbutt flinch strats or something. I'm honestly not sure. I think the water types will be okay as long as they can get access to something like Ice Punch here or Blizzard. They should eventually get through. And Meganium's just kind of Meganium. We're just going to have to see what happens with that Pokemon. Still, I think ultimately that we will be able to get a decent number of these Pokemon through. I would guess that at least 8 Pokemon will get through in this episode, but tell me what you think down in the comments below. And keep in mind that we're going all the way through Rival 5 here. We will be right on the doorstep of the league when we finish this episode. So every Pokemon that does get through this one will be onto the Pokemon League at the end of this. So things are really going to get intense. We may start losing some Pokemon. We'll just have to see. But I'm going to lead off with our member pick Bulbasaur, being supported by Caleb M. It is number 1, and it's the Pokemon I like to use to just lead off in these sections and see how they go. Obviously, we've got the Venusaur up there too, but they're running different movesets, so I think it's okay to go Bulbasaur first. Then we'll get to HolyFatFish's Charmusaur after that. So let's just dive straight into it. So we are going to lead off with channel member Caleb M's number 1 Bulbasaur, coming in with Growth, Razor Leaf, Ancient Power, and Sleep Powder. We saw Ancient Power be really useful in that Cubone in the last episode, so I get a feeling that between that, Sleep, and Growth, we're going to find a way through this. But we're going to have to start by getting through the Rocket storyline. Now, this section shouldn't be hard overall, but there are some particular fights that are a little bit difficult. The first executive on the top of the first part of the radio tower has a massive team of coughings and wheezing, and they can all basically go boom against you, and that is actually a wall for some Pokemon. If we can't find a way through that, we could actually lose in that fight. And a grass type like Bulbasaur is a good example of a Pokemon that might struggle there, because it's just not going to have good damage dealing moves against those poison type Pokemon. And it turns out that Kenya the Spearow was exchanged for the Nightmare TM last time to show how to get it. So unfortunately, we need to catch ourselves a flying type so we can move more efficiently here. But now with that out of the way, we are ready to get to the radio tower, where there's just a ton of trainers that we have to fight here. Most of them shouldn't be too hard, but let's just see how they actually go. Now, this section requires us to fight this Rocket who's guarding the first floor, 3 Rockets on the next level. Then there are 2 trainers required here. There's a Scientist and there's a Rocket member over there. We can, of course, pop out occasionally to heal when necessary. The next floor has this spinner that we do have to get past, but he's not required. So we only have to fight this Scientist on this floor. And that brings us to the top of the first part of the radio tower and the first executive. And he's the one who has all of the coughings and wheezing that love to go boom. We call him the Marlboro Man because he's clearly been coughing and wheezing because of his past activities. So here against the Marlboro Man, the strategy is pretty simple. We're going to put his first coughing to sleep. And with this Bulbasaur, I'm just going to set up all of the growth right here. Once we get 6 growth on, we should be dealing the maximum amount of damage. He does also like to use Smokescreen, which is one of the other reasons why he could be really tough. Obviously, it's hard to pay attention to what you're doing when a guy is just chain smoking up here. But now we can go into Razor Leaf and one-shot the first coughing. Razor Leaf will one-shot the second coughing. Razor Leaf one-shots the third coughing. The wheezing is the scary one since it can go boom, and I don't think it's going to be a one-hitter. Sure enough, it's a 2-hit KO, but it just goes Smokescreen, so we get through just fine. Another coughing comes out. We knock that one out nice and easy, and we can knock out this final coughing right here. We see getting through all of those gets our Pokemon to level 39, and we can learn Synthesis here. I'm not sure if it's the best strategy to learn that or not, since I think I want Ancient Power for coverage. So I'm actually going to skip Synthesis on this Bulbasaur. Tell me if you think that's a mistake. Of course, it's a member pick, so we could go back and fix mistakes later. But for now, that gets us through the first part of the Radio Tower. And next up is Rival number 4. In general, this section's pretty easy, so I'll just talk about the Marlboro Man up here with most of these Pokemon, unless something actually proves to be a wall in some sort of way, but I don't really expect too many walls in this part. Now, as we make our way into the underground, most Pokemon have already fought these two trainers, and they would be trivial at this point anyway, so we open the basement door with the key, and Rival 4 is gonna come and greet us right here, hanging out with Team Rocket as usual. Let's see how he goes with our number 1 Bulbasaur. So he leads off with the Golbat here, so I'm going to put this Pokemon to sleep. It did use a really powerful wing attack against me, which is a little nerve-wracking. Still, this is why we wanted the Ancient Power. It will two-shot that Pokemon, getting us through to the Quilava. The problem with this Bulbasaur is that we're fairly slow. We missed the Sleep Powder here, and that's basically all she wrote for this one. We're gonna have to take our first reset on Rival number 4 here. It looks like we're in a speed tie with the Golbat, so if we can put it to sleep first, we may be able to get a better range and get through with better HP. We get an Omni boost this time as well, so that's going to help us quite a bit. We put the Quilava to sleep. We still have Ancient Power here, but I'm going to go for Growth to try to get some special attack while this one's asleep. We can survive one Flame Wheel, at least at this point, and after we get everything set up, we can just use the Ancient Power once and follow with Razor Leaf to knock that Pokemon out. Magnemite comes out next. We miss the sleep and we get knocked out here. So I think this one's going to be fairly luck-based, given that we're in that speed tie at the beginning. But if we can just win a speed flip, I think we will get this one to go eventually. Now, I've decided to hold off on setup till he sends out the Magnemite third, since this Pokemon really doesn't threaten us with anything. And as long as we can get through to here on pretty good health, I mean, he'll go Sonic Boom, but that's basically it. And as long as we keep the Magnemite asleep, we could even go for a Paralyzed Cure Berry here just to make sure that he doesn't get any status. And with all the growth set up, we can now go for Razor Leaf and just knock that Pokemon out. Haunter comes out next. We're going to be slower than this Pokemon no matter what we do. But with all the growth set up, I think we can just go for Razor Leaf here. We missed the first Razor Leaf, unfortunately, but we knocked out with the next Razor Leaf. That brings out Sneasel. We have Ancient Power, and it does not quite get a one-hit KO, and we get Quick Attack down. So Razor Leaf was probably still the play on that one as well. Let's just try this one again. So it takes a few attempts because we were getting terrible sleep luck, but we do get back to Sneasel here. It has nothing better than Quick Attack, and Razor Leaf will just one-shot at that point, getting us the victory against Rival number 4. So definitely just stick with the Razor Leaf there with the Bulbasaur. I definitely was getting a little too cute trying to go for the Ancient Power against the Sneasel. It is not enough with a Pokemon like this that doesn't have a super high attack stat and is not getting a same type attack bonus. Still, ultimately, we get through that fight and we're ready to progress through the rest of this section. Now, it's worth noting, you have to complete the Radio Tower before you can go to Clair, so we always have to come here. The route is basically predefined for us in this section of the game. We can also see, though, that we're getting to such a high level relative to the opponents here that there's really not a whole lot of risk once you get to the underground part of this section. I don't think any Pokemon that gets through Marlboro Man will ever struggle with any of these rockets down here, outside of maybe getting some bad luck with accuracy or status or something like that. Now, it's worth noting I will run out repeatedly to heal at the Pokemon Center here because I want to save my PP restoration items for the league. So while it's not the most efficient route routing, it is the way that I will go in these situations. Now, there are no skippable trainers in the entirety of the underground section, so we can get TM35 right here and get access to the card key. Of course, TM35 is adding Sleep Talk to our repertoire. We're going to get Rest pretty soon too. Technically, Sleep Talk Rest strats are a possibility in this section of the game. It's something that I'm going to avoid because I don't want every Pokemon to just use Sleep Talk Rest, but it is a kind of YOLO strategy that we can use at the end if nothing else is working. It's also worth noting that Rest with a Mint Berry will automatically wake you up the same turn that you heal, so it is a strategy that a Pokemon could use to get HP back and then manage to get through the fight after that. And since in this series, berries are effectively limitless, we could just wait days and days and days to get more berries. Rest plus Mint Berry strats could be completely broken here. But that's all for the future. For now, we have made it to the second part of the radio tower with our number 1 Bulbasaur. We have to fight this guy who's guarding the door right here, though he's incredibly easy at this point, given that we're at such a high level relative to his Pokemon. But now as we go up, now we're fighting executives. There is the executive guarding the door to go upstairs right here. He's got the Golbat at level 36. It's going to outspeed us. So I'm going for Ancient Power here. We get the 2-hit KO, so we managed to get through just fine on that one. And after a quick heal, we've got 2 more executives on the top floor right here. This executive has the Arbok, which we can simply put to sleep. I'm going to set up a bunch of growths because I know she has a Vileplume as well. And it's not like Arbok has anything super threatening here. And once we get all the growths set up, we'll go into Razor Leaf, nearly getting the 1-hit KO. We'll get a 2-hitter there. Out comes Murkrow. We can go for the Ancient Power. It turns out to be a 2-hitter with that move. Still, we get through just fine. And now on Vileplume, it really just doesn't have anything that great against us. I think we should put this one to sleep just to avoid getting put to sleep ourselves, and now go into Razor Leaf, which is going to score a 2-hit KO right there as we get to level 43 now, coming into the final Rocket Executive. Now, this is the second of the rockets that I'll likely cover in this section, just to show that we finished this section of the game. He is wannabe Giovanni here, you know, meet your doom with his Houndoom, but I think we're going to be able to get through this one just fine. He sends out Houndour first. We just Ancient Power in one shot. Coughing comes out next. We miss Sleep Powder and it goes Sludge. Still, we're going to get through this one eventually, I think, with Razor Leaf. Sure enough, it's doing more than enough damage to get us through, and that brings out the Houndoom. It is faster than us, but Ember didn't take us down. We can put it to sleep and now go Ancient Power, and it's an easy 2-hit KO. And we get to level 44 right here with our medium slow level of Pokemon by just beating that executive. So we can see we're already getting to a pretty good level with medium slow Pokemon here. And just like that, the radio tower section is finished. There's not a whole lot to get here. We already have the pink bow from earlier, but we can get the TM from this lady right here, TM 11. And that means that Sunny Day strats are also in play as we go into the Clair fight. Now, I'm not sure if Sunny Day is going to be super useful here, but if anything does get access to Solar Beam, I guess it could be a strategy. We couldn't actually get Solar Beam as a TM until after we defeat Clair. We need to be able to use the move Waterfall outside of battle, but it is still a possibility that we can keep in mind. Now, as we go through this next route, there are no required trainers to get us to Blackthorn. We can simply skip everything here, get straight into the Ice Path. And in Ice Path, we're just going to pick up a few useful items and basically make our way through it. So the vast majority of fights that we're taking in this section are in fact just there in the Rocket storyline at the radio tower. After that, it's pretty sparse, to be perfectly honest. Just a couple trainers in the gym and then one optional trainer before we get to Rival 5. Outside of that, it's boss fights from here on out. Now, for Ice-type Pokemon, of course, they can get the Never Melt Ice right here, but for this Bulbasaur, it's completely irrelevant, so I'm not going to pick up that item. But as mentioned, we can get TM44 for Rest right here. That will be one of our broken strats in this section if we get really desperate, is to go for the Rest Mint Berries or the Rest Sleep Talk strats. I will not be picking up any of the vitamins here since I don't use vitamins in these runs, but I will get access to the PP up that's sitting right over here, so I'll throw something away out of my bag to make a little space just for that. I probably won't be using any PP ups immediately, but I believe we can get some here. We can get some in the Whirl Island. section. I'm not sure the exact location, so I'm going to look that up after this if we ever have a Pokemon that seems to need the PP ups, but otherwise we'll have to get as many as we can before we go to the league. But with that, we've made it to Blackthorn Gym. There's no need to take on any other trainers in this section, so we just come straight in here and try to beat Clair. We've got a couple randos to fight first though, so let's get through them and see how they go. Starting with this guy here who's blocking the door. We cannot get through without fighting him and his Stratinis, but they're already 10 levels lower than our Bulbasaur here. The problem is, of course, that they use Dragon Rage, and if we get paralyzed, they can knock us out in 3 hits. So we need to keep these Dratinis asleep. I could go Paralyzed Cure Berry here, but I really want to save Paralyzed Cure Berries for when I get to the actual gym leader. So this is one of the ways that this section, I guess, could be kind of tough. Still, if we can just keep the Dratini asleep long enough, we should be able to reach a point where Razor Leaf just one-shots. Sure enough, it does. And after that, we should have a guaranteed victory on this trainer. Still, we'll have to keep an eye out for that. The next 2 trainers on the upper floor both are using water-type Pokemon, so our Bulbasaur is going to have no issues here. We just have to do a little bit of pushing rocks around puzzles. It's like my least favorite part of the game, but we can quickly get through it and make our way back downstairs. With that done, there's just one more rando before we take on Clair herself. This one does have a Dragonair at level 36, but we do manage to get through just fine with our Bulbasaur, and we're finally ready to make our way to the gym leader herself. And in general, this is where I think we need a Paralyzed Cure Berry because the Dragonairs are going to be so likely to go for Thunder Wave first against us. I think it's the easiest way to progress. So with that berry slapped on, let's get into the Clair fight and just see how she goes for the first time with our Bulbasaur. You'll also notice we're getting very close to having maximum happiness here, so return is nearly full power. Any Pokemon that's struggling at this point can basically go return. I don't think we're going to count it as a broken TM anymore because you're already at basically max friendship. Anyway, you could run around, get some haircuts, whatever, in order to get the max friendship here. So I think that at this point, we can say max friendship return is no longer a broken TM. I'm still not going to go straight to that strategy because I don't want every Pokemon to use it, but it is just worth noting that we are at the point where that max friendship is basically locked in. But here for Clair, attempt number 1, we can see she has a level 37 Dragonair out first. We outspeed and put this Pokemon to sleep, which is perfect. I'm going to start setting up growth right here. I want to get all 6 growths off with my Bulbasaur, I think, just to deal the maximum amount of damage, since the Dragonairs are not going to take a lot of damage from our Razor Leaf. Let's see what the range is with Razor Leaf now, though. We do get a one-hitter with a crit on the first Dragonair. Let's stick with it on the second Dragonair. We get another crit, so we one-shot there. Third Dragonair still goes down with a single hit, and that brings out the Kingdra. We can see Kingdra is only level 40. Medium slow level up Pokemon will out-level the ace of Clair naturally. There's no way to avoid it because this is a minimum battles route. So the fact that we're out leveling here is kind of OP, to be perfectly honest, but we're just going to go for our Razor Leaf. We are slower. It goes for the smoke screen, but it's not enough. We defeat Clair on the first attempt. She claims that there must be some mistake that we cheesed through with a Bulbasaur here. How could you be 5 levels higher than me with your little first stage Pokemon, she says. But we're going to go tell some old guys to put her in her place. Now, there is one required trainer as we walk in here. You have no choice. You have to fight this guy. He's so angry that you disrespected Clair by defeating her Dragonairs and Kingdra, and so he's coming out with his own Dragonair to try to get some revenge. We can see that without the growth, we do laughably little damage here. So we do have to keep this Pokemon asleep and set up growth if we're going to get through this. Otherwise, we actually get taken out by Dragon Rage. The problem for this Bulbasaur, at least, is its low HP, but it's something to keep in mind that even for stronger, more evolved Pokemon, at this point in the game, 40 damage is still significant and can lead to you losing. Now, we get a level up here and we get access to Solar Beam on our Bulbasaur, and I'm debating if I should learn it or not. It will be our strongest move, and with Sleep Powder, it could actually become really OP HP. Still, it's a TM, so I'm going to avoid it for now because I can just learn it later, but that is technically a strat if everything else goes badly. We've just reached the point where the TM for that move is legitimately available, so I think we can skip it comfortably for now. Now here in the Dragon Den, we can get a lot of items, but I'm mostly getting the max elixirs here. There is a Dragon Fang as well if we need it, but I'm not going to need it obviously with this Bulbasaur. And after that, we just come talk to some old dudes. We're going to answer their questions as nicely as possible, and they're going to tell Claire to come off it and give us our gym badge. And she's going to run off to warn Lance about how we just cheesed our way through her gym and the fact that he better watch out with his flying type Pokemon. We know the ancient power, and that might get us a victory there, though I think we're probably ending up going for growth plus a strong grass type move with this one. Still, with that done, there's nothing to do now but make our way down to the league. A few things have opened up here, of course. We can go back to Mount Mortar if we want, and because we're now able to use Waterfall outside of battle, we can zip up the waterfall here. This gets us access to another rare candy that's sitting right over here. There's no need to fight any trainers in this section of the game, but there are more just general items laying around, and one of those is going to be TM40 for Defense Curl right there. And of course, if we get TM40 and we already know Rollout with the Pokemon, that can become a strategy to go for the Defense Curl rollouts. There is also a Dragon Scale here, though I don't think it's going to be super useful in this section, and we can get another elixir right there. So nothing super exciting, but it is possible to get more items as you come up here, with honestly the TM40 for Defense Curl being the most important or useful, at least in my opinion. But with that, we'll just fly back to New Bark Town and start heading east, where we can make our first steps into Kanto, of course. We all know there's a rare candy waiting for us right here, though that was already available in the previous section. But now we're about to get to what I consider to be the single most annoying trainer in the entire game. We need to save every time right outside this door, because the second we walk out, there is a set spinner, and sometimes she'll see you, sometimes she won't, and you can't see what direction she's looking because you're inside the cave. But this trainer is not required on minimum battles. You can skip her. You're just gonna have to sit here and reset for it. Now we can come talk to this old woman, and as long as our Pokemon trusts us, which it will at this point, we should always have high friendship, we will get access to Sandstorm, which we can use in battle. Any rock or steel type Pokemon might really like that as a way to get some chip damage. And from there, basically all of these trainers are completely skippable. We can go past one Whirlpool right here to get access to TM22, so that we have Solar Beam available if we need it with any Pokemon that can learn to move. But outside of that, we basically just have to route properly to skip all of these trainers. I will save here and there just to make sure I don't accidentally run into anything. But the only trainer who's required is this trainer right here, who lost to a trainer named RBY Pokemon Challenges, clearly the worst trainer in the world. We're gonna have to take her on. She's got this Rapidash at level 36. She's going for the Fire Spin strats, but I'm just going to Ancient Power her down and get a nice, easy victory. There's another Max Elixir right here, so we've got plenty of PP Restoration in the bag when we actually get to the league, and this is the only part of the game where we actually need to be able to restore PP, so it's just super important to get those moves so that we can recover in between each league member. After that, though, we make it into Victory Road, where, yet again, there's not a whole lot in here. Most of these items are just random things like full heals. So the only super relevant item that's going to be in here is going to be TM26 for Earthquake. Not learnable by our Pokemon, but it will be something that's super useful for a lot of Pokemon coming into this section, since it will be one of their strongest moves. But with that done, it's time to simply take on the rival. I'm going to make sure that I have full HP here as we get into this one, and let's just see how this actually goes. So Rival 5 is right in front of us. He leads off with the level 34 Sneasel. It is a very fast Pokemon. It goes Screech turn 1, which is probably a good strategy by him. If he goes for the wing attack later on, he could do massive damage. But I'm going to put this Pokemon to sleep and set up all my growth right here, since it doesn't have any really strong moves against me. And then I think Razor Leaf just does the job. Golbat comes out next, and we are once again in a speed tie. We win the tie this time, putting it to sleep. We can go Ancient Power a couple times to knock this one out, and that gets rid of one of our main threats. Kadabra comes out next. I'm just going to go Razor Leaf as it goes Future Sight. We get a nice easy victory there. Typhlosion is faster. We put it to sleep, but we got burned. I think we have to go Razor Leaf. I think that's our strongest move here, and Future Sight knocks me out. So we actually lose the first attempt here. He's using some high level strats. We're gonna have to see if we can get this to go. Now he does kind of lead off with his weakest Pokemon with Sneasel here, so we get a little bit of an advantage there. Golbat goes for Confuse Ray this time instead of going for Wing Attack, which was good, but once we miss even once with the Sleep Powder, it's basically game over on this one. So here, I'm not sure what the best strategy is, but I'm going to try giving a Gold Berry so that we can recover some HP. That might be our best play in this one. This time we get a better range against the Golbat. Kadabra comes out again. It's going to go Future Sight, it looks like, no matter what we do. That brings out the Typhlosion. Once again, we get Flame Wheeled, and a critical hit one-shots us. So Rival 5 is actually putting in some work against this Bulbasaur at least. We're going to have to see how the rest of our Pokemon do. The Gold Berry essentially buys us one turn of missing, otherwise we get completely wrecked. It could be that a Quick Claw actually turns out to be the best strategy here. I'm honestly just not sure. A few attempts later, we're back to Typhlosion. It still goes Flame Wheel, getting massive damage, but this time we get a heal with the Gold Berry. We'll go into the Ancient Power here, getting a nice critical hit. We get hit by Future Sight, but we do get to knock this Pokemon out this time. That brings out the Magneton, which we outspeed. We'll put it to sleep, go for Razor Leaf here, and fully powered up Razor Leaf just one-shots that Pokemon. The Haunter I don't think can do anything, so we simply win at that point. It's not super consistent, but even our member pick Bulbasaur does find a way through the rival, and just like that, we have completed this section. We can come in, heal in the Pokemon League, get access to all the full restores that we need, and we're going to be ready to go to Willy Boy after this. So Caleb M shows us that it is possible to get through to this section, even with a fairly weak first stage Pokemon, provided you've got the right strategies and moves. And let me just give a massive thank you to Caleb M for all of his support so far. Already 23 months as a channel member supporting the #1 Pokemon Bulbasaur. And after 23 months in that new Bark starter tier, he has not only knocked Chuck out, he's knocked out all 8 gym leaders and made his way to the league. It's going to be really fun to see how far this Bulbasaur can actually go. Let's get it in the next section. Thank you so much for your support. And if you would like to support your own favorite Pokemon in this challenge, consider joining that channel membership down below. It helps me a ton. These videos take more time than basically anything else I do on any of my channels because we're just going through so many traders. Like, I'm spending maybe 20-30 minutes on every single Pokemon at least. When you multiply that by 10, 15, 20 Pokemon per episode, you can do the math and figure out that it's just a massive grind. So every one of these channel memberships goes a really long way to helping support me in doing this. So just consider that if you are somebody who would like to join a channel membership yourself. There is a link to the website down below where you can see all the available Pokemon and submit your picks after joining. Anyway, with that, let's get to our episode properly and see how we're going to do in this section. But now with Bulbasaur completed and a rough overview of how this section is going to go, I'm going to lead off with my one remaining grass type of the Gen 1 and Gen 2 starters, that is Meganium, and then we'll compare it up to our member pick Venusaur. Let's just see how these fully evolved grass types do here. Then we'll dive into the fire types and finally the water types, and we'll find a spot to get that member pick Onix into the action as well. So let's just dive into this and see how they go. Meganium's kind of interesting because I'm not sure it's going to get enough moves to get through this section. We're using things like Body Slam, etc. So this might not be great, but let's find out. So Meganium is coming in knowing Body Slam, Mud Slap, Synthesis, and Razor Leaf. So it's got a nice amount of coverage, but I'm just not sure if it's enough to actually get us through this next section or not without needing a bunch of resets. Let's get into that and find out. Now, of course, Meganium makes it to the Marlboro Man just fine, so let's just see how this goes here. I'm going to lead off with Body Slam on the Coughing. We can see this is a 2-hit KO, so it might be better to go for some Mud Slaps here. Basically, damage doesn't matter too much to us. We can always use Synthesis to get some HP back. But I do think we need to save some Body Slam PP as we go through this one. We get to the Wheezing here, but we are poisoned. And we can see that Synthesis isn't healing a ton of damage here. So we're going to have to be a little more conservative here, I think, as we go into this next attempt. Of course, being weak to Sludge is a bit of a problem since they can do massive damage to us with that move. So we're going to need a fair amount of luck, it looks like, to get through this one. It's worth at least checking if Razor Leaf does similar damage. It does look like Razor Leaf 2-hit KOs here against these Coughings, so we might be better off just going for Razor Leaf against them since it does have the high critical hit chance, and then save Body Slam for the Wheezing. It's still going to be pretty random here, but we might have better chances getting through like this. And this is one of the problems with grass types in this section is the Marlboro Man is actually a tough fight given his ability to just spam you with a bunch of poison type moves. And it turns out that the Razor Leaf is not just a guaranteed 2-hit KO, it can be a 3-hitter here. Miracle Seed might help that, so I'm going to just test that out, but we might be hitting a little bit of a wall. And after a bunch of resets here, this fight is not working for me. I've tried Mud Slap strats, I've tried Razor Leaf strats, I've tried Body Slam strats. So honestly, I think we need to change up our moveset to use something a little bit stronger here. I'm going to test to see what the return strats do for us in this one. Just because Body Slam is not quite getting a 1-hit KO. Of course, if we had Earthquake from later on, this would be a super trivial fight to get through. But for now, I think Return might be our best strategy. I'm going to learn it over Mud Slap because I don't think we're going to be going for a ton of Mud Slap strats when we get to the league. So let's see if this turns out to be enough for us. So here with Max Power Return, we're still not getting a 1-hit KO on these Coughings, which basically tells me that this is probably not the strategy that's actually going to get the victory here. It doesn't even do half to the Wheezing there. So instead, I'm going to try Hidden Power Dark since that move is special and most of these Pokemon have a lower special defense than normal defense. This might actually be better than having Return here, though it does put us purely into broken TM territory. Here, Hidden Power Dark does about the same damage as we were just doing with Return, though it's pretty close. Black Glasses might be enough to enable us to just easily KO the Coughings at least. So I'm going to try that strategy instead. Here we just missed the range to 1-hit KO the first Coughing, but we 1-hit KO the second Coughing. So this is clearly a range now with Hidden Power Dark. We just missed the 2-hit KO range there on the Wheezing, but this makes me think this is probably the best strategy. We might just need a lot of high rolls. This time we get 3 high rolls against the first 3 Coughings, so we get to the Wheezing on full health. It gets a critical hit Sludge, but then we do get the 2-hit KO. We barely missed up knocking out the next Coughing, so I'll just take it down with a Body Slam. And the final Coughing hits me with Sludge and knocks me out from 25 HP. We got it all the way down to 6 HP remaining, so this is just going to require a lot of really good rolls to get through this one, I think. I also haven't been going for Synthesis because it doesn't heal that much damage back for us. So I just don't think that it's going to give us that much of an advantage here. And on this final Coughing, we might just need a critical hit to actually get through. Or once again, just a really high roll. Here we once again get to the final Coughing. I'll use Synthesis once. And it does look like we're healing a little bit extra damage. It goes Smog here. And then I Body Slam and paralyze it. So we finally managed to get through the Marlboro Man. But that was a nightmare with Meganium. Like, I cannot overstate that. That was really, really tough. So we might be in trouble even against the rival since we had to replace Mud Slap. We're not going to have those strategies here. I think we want to keep Body Slam and Razor Leaf though. Synthesis still gives us at least a way to heal in battle, so maybe it could come in clutch at some point. We're just gonna have to see, but we have to get to the rival 4 fight right now with Meganium, and this could be a little tough since this Pokemon doesn't get Sleep Powder. So Rival 4 attempt number 1. I think our only good play here is to go Body Slam on the first Golbat. We'll get a 2-hit KO on that Pokemon. Quilava comes out next, and yet again, Body Slam seems to me to be the play. We survived the Flame Wheel just fine, so we get through that. Now for this Magnemite, I'm going to try Razor Leaf. We did about half. It missed the first time with its Thunder Wave and just Thunder Waves us after that. We'll go obviously Hidden Power Dark against the Haunter, but we were fully paralyzed, so we lose. This might be worth holding a Miracle Seed so that we deal a little extra damage with the Razor Leaf against that Magnemite and get a 2-hitter. Let's try this again. So once again, we'll Body Slam against the first 2 Pokemon, getting us through this time on better than half health. Razor Leaf against the Magnemite. We did get paralyzed here, but we know the Haunter is just going to go Curse, and we just need to actually be able to move there. So Paralyzed Cure Berry might be better. I'm honestly not sure, but I'm going to just keep testing this out. This time we get through the Magnemite with no paralysis. We can go Hidden Power Dark to knock out the Haunter, and then I guess Razor Leaf's probably our best play here against the Sneasel. I'm not sure. Body Slam could be pretty good here as well. Obviously, Hidden Power Dark is resisted. My overlay's a little busted, claiming that it's stronger here, but I'm just going to try to go Razor Leaf, and that does get us through and get us to level 40. So it hasn't been pretty, but we have managed to get through Rival 4. We're ready to go through the second part of this section, and hopefully things ease up a little bit as we just get through a bunch of these randos. Now, it is worth noting that we can already go into the ice path at this point. It's not actually blocked anymore, so we can get all the way to Blackthorn City, and that does mean that things like rest are on the table at this point in the game. I didn't go for it in this one, but that could have been a YOLO strat, especially with the Mint Berry to get all of our HP back by using a rest. Still, we've managed to get through the underground just fine. We're ready to move on to the second part of the radio tower with our Meganium. Let's try to get to that final Rocket Executive here. And sure enough, we're here against Mr. Meet Your Doom. He leads off with the Houndoom, which we will simply Body Slam in one shot against the Coughing. I'm going back to Hidden Power. We get the 1-hit KO there. And Houndoom comes out, Body Slam nearly gets the 1-hitter, and it misses its attack, so we win on the first attempt, getting to level 44. Still not super inspiring at this point. We're going to have to see if we can manage to get through Claire. She could be tough with this Meganium. I'm honestly not sure how it's going to go. Now, fortunately, against the Dratinis, we're just one-shotting here with Body Slam, so we're going to get through Polyshore there and make our way on through the rest of this section pretty easily, I think, but let's see if we can actually take down Claire. So here I have slapped on a Paralyzed Cure Berry as we come into the Claire fight, and let's just see if we can actually win this one. It looks like it's going to be 2-hit KOs against her Dragonairs based on the previous trainer with Body Slam, but let's see how that actually works out. So Claire attempt number 1. I'm going to go Body Slam on the first Dragonair. Sure enough, it's a 2-hitter. It goes for the Thunder Wave right here, and we just knock it out after that. We're hoping that we get our own paralysis luck. We get a nice Thunder Wave miss on the second Dragonair. Paralyze the third one. We're still going to be faster. And that brings us to the final Kingdra. I'm still going to Body Slam here, trying to paralyze it as well. She goes for the Hyper Potion, now into Surf. And now we can go Razor Leaf. We can see that the Hyper Beam didn't do that much, so Meganium gets through easily on the first attempt, and just like that, we're ready to move on in the game. So definitely nice to see that Meganium gets through Claire with no issues after all those struggles on the Marlboro Man, and we can just take on her little protege down here in the underground, get our badge, and make our way off to the league. Now with Meganium, I will make sure to get Solar Beam just to have it in the bag. I'm not sure it's as good on this Pokemon given the fact that we won't have access to Sleep Powder, so it would probably have to be used together with Sunny Day if it's going to be used effectively. Still, that is a strategy that's available to us, so we'll keep it in mind as we go through this one. And here we'll just defeat the one required rando on this route and make our way in towards rival number 5. I'm also going to get access to Earthquake here, since that is a learnable TM. It could help us even with the rival with some of his team, given that he's going to have things like the Haunter, like the Magneton, etc. that move should do really well against. I'll still hold off on learning it right away because I don't want to learn it too early. There could be a situation where, for example, Hidden Power Dark is our best move against Will in the league, so I don't think I want to replace that move right here. But let's just see how this goes currently with our moveset against the rival. So first off, he leads off with Sneasel. We are faster than this Pokemon. I'm just going to go Razor Leaf. It's going to be a 2-hit KO, but we do manage to get through. Golbat's out next. We'll Body Slam twice. We survive the wing attack just fine. Typhlosion comes out. We're still faster than this Pokemon. We Body Slam and paralyze it. It goes Flame Wheel though, getting a critical hit. I'm going to go Synthesis here, hoping that it's fully paralyzed. Unfortunately, it does not look like we're getting that luck, and we're simply going to get whittled down right there. If not for the crit though, we might have been able to get through, so let's just test this a little bit more. This time, no wing attack. We just get Confuse Raid by the Golbat. We once again paralyze the Typhlosion. No critical hit this time. It's a 3-hitter, but it's fully paralyzed the second turn, so we get through without too much damage. That's going to bring us to the Magneton. I'm going Razor Leaf. This is going to be a 3-hit KO on this Pokemon though, so that's where that Earthquake really could come in clutch. We'll go for the Hidden Power on the Haunter. We get to Kadabra, it goes Future Sight, but that's actually enough to get through because we had the Hidden Power Dark. We just one-shot there against the last 2 Pokemon, so it turns out not to be too bad. We can keep our moveset intact as we get to the league with Meganium on minimum battles. The only Grass-type starter that managed to beat Falkner turns out to be good enough to get all the way here to the end of the game. It hasn't always been pretty. Marlboro Man was a serious wall. We did have to go into that broken TMs category using the Hidden Power Dark, but ultimately Meganium gets through. So now let's check in on our member pick Venusaur, which is, I believe, using Sleep Powder strats. I think it's going to be a lot better than this. Let's see how it actually goes. So here we're coming in with Charmusaur being supported by HolyFatFish, and we're coming in with Razor Leaf, Sleep Powder, Leech Seed, and Tackle. Basically, all that I think we need to get through this section is going to be good Sleep Powder luck, though we'll probably replace Tackle with something better here pretty quickly because honestly, I just don't expect that move to be strong enough to get us through anything at this point. Headbutt is very likely going to be the play there. Still, let's make our way over to Goldenrod and get through this Radio Tower section and just see how it goes. And sure enough, there are just so many poison types here that I think the only play is to add on the Headbutt. It's double the power plus has the chance to flinch, so I think it's just going to help us get through a lot easier here. So here we'll come up against the Marlboro Man. I'm just going to go Sleep Powder here, and I'll even Leech Seed to get a little passive healing. Then we can go into Headbutt. We see it takes a couple Headbutts to get through these coughings, but if they stay asleep, plus we've got the Leech Seed on, I think we're going to be just fine here. And sure enough, we're getting through these first couple coughings at least without too much difficulty. We're also only neutrally affected by poison, which is going to help us quite a bit here. And that brings us to the Wheezing for the first time. I'm not sure what the ranges are, so I'm going to stick with Leech Seed for passive healing if it does wake up and to get a slightly better range. Turns out to take 2 Headbutts with the Leech Seed on for 3 turns to get through there, so otherwise it would be a 3-hit KO. Still after that, I think we're good to go against the final couple of coughings here. They're not going to deal too much damage to us and we can just headbutt them down. So the Marlboro Man goes down easily on the first attempt with Venusaur, something that we could not say with that Meganium. Having the grass poison type is a massive advantage in this section. But now with that done, it's time to get to Rival 4. Let's see how he goes with HolyFatFish's Venusaur here. Now the Rival leads off with the Golbat. We're going to put it to sleep. We're faster here because we're a fully evolved Pokemon, which is nice. Now we can go into our Headbutts. It looks like a 3-hitter here. We're just barely not getting the 2-hit KO range. Still, that's perfectly fine. As Quilava comes out, we're going to be faster. I misclick and use Leech Seed instead of using Sleep Powder, but that's basically fine. We recovered a bunch of HP there, and we're slowly getting our HP back as we just headbutt this Pokemon down. Magnemite comes out next. I'm going for the Sleep Powder. We missed Sleep Powder. It missed the Thunder Wave. Perfectly fine by me. Let's just Leech Seed and now go into Razor Leaf here, since it's going to be our strongest move against this Pokemon. And with that one going down, we get to the Haunter. We'll put this one to sleep as well. I'm just going to go all in on trying to knock this Pokemon out. I don't really want to be cursed here. And it turns out that a critical hit Razor Leaf is enough to 2-hit KO there against that Pokemon. We've made it to the final Sneasel. I'll just headbutt it twice, and it's going to be an easy victory on Rival number 4. And with that done, we're ready to get through all these randos. Let's gain some more levels and make our way up to the top of the Radio Tower. Now here we get a level up and learn the move Growth. with our Venusaur, and I'm going to go for this over Leech Seed. I just think that it's going to be the better play in the long term to have more damage output with the Sleep Powder, with the Razor Leaf. This is going to be my strategy for getting through. Let's see if it actually works out though. At this point, I'm pretty sure that just a couple growths into Razor Leaf will basically knock out all of these randos without any issues. We actually just barely missed the range here on this Magmar, but that's perfectly fine. We're still going to be able to get through these fights nice and easy. And sure enough, we make it to the final Rocket Executive with no issues with this Pokemon. So let's get into this fight and see how it goes. He leads off with the Houndour. I'm just going to go for a Sleep right here, and we'll set up some growth. He wakes up and goes for Ember. It didn't do that much damage, so I'm not too worried here. I will get all the setup off here though, because I just want to have the best range possible against the final Houndoom. Here we can go Razor Leaf and knock that Pokemon out. Razor Leaf will destroy the Coughing. Razor Leaf on the Houndoom is also a one-hit KO. Not sure, maybe I over set up there, but we managed to get through just fine in that battle. So of course we make it to Blackthorn Gym. Let's just see how this section actually goes with our Venusaur. I'm going to try just headbutting on these Dratidis. It doesn't quite get the range, so I think we go Razor Leaf instead. Let's see if it gets enough damage to one-hit KO here. Of course, if we're paralyzed every single turn, we have no shot of getting through, but it looks like we're not quite getting the range. So I think the strategy is to Sleep Powder the first Dratini here, set up a growth, and then we should get through from there. But turns out that this is a little bit more difficult with a Venusaur than it was previously with our Meganium. Still, we can get through just fine. The rest of these trainers shouldn't be an issue, so let's make our way to Clair. So here we've made it to Clair. I'm on a little less than half health, but I'm still going to see if I can just get the victory, because I think this just comes down to Sleep Powder plus growth setup, and we should be able to get through Clair just fine. Let's test it out. So first things first, on the first Dragonair, we are faster. We can set up the Sleep Powder here. Now I'm just going to go for a bunch of growth. She wakes up and misses Thunder Wave, but then hits the Dragon Breath, getting the paralysis. I think anytime we get paralyzed, it's basically just a reset here. So this time I've used 4 growths. Let's see what Razor Leaf does. It just barely misses getting the one-hit KO on this Dragonair. So it looks like we need 5 growths to get through this one reliably. This time we get the 5 growths, knock out the first Dragonair. Let's see the second Dragonair. It gets the one-hit KO there as well. Third Dragonair comes out. We get the one-hitter, and that brings us to Kingdra. I'm going for Razor Leaf. I miss. It goes Dragon Breath, but then the next Razor Leaf critical hits and one-shots. So we get through Clair just fine. She's upset that we reset a bunch of times there to beat her. Clearly, that's not fair. She only has to lose to us once for us to get through, but somehow we managed to get through when we just reset like 10 times. I can understand why she's a little upset in this one. Still, we're going to come downstairs, just beat up on her protege down here in the Dragon Den, and make our way to the old guys who are going to tell her fair is fair because all's fair in love and war. And she's just going to have to accept that and go warn Lance about this Venusaur that's coming for him. And with that done, we're ready to now make our way over to the league. We'll get this Solar Beam TM. There's no point in getting Earthquake because Venusaur doesn't learn Earthquake till Gen 3, which is kind of ridiculous. I think if this Pokemon got access to Earthquake, it would be super OP here. Definitely help against our fire type weakness. So unfortunately, we're not going to be able to use that in this one. So we're just going to have to make our way as is to the league and just see if we can manage to beat rival number 5 here. In this case, I will get Solar Beam, though I think it could be much more useful on this Pokemon with Sleep Powder as a way to set up. Plus the growth. I mean, Solar Beam could become OP quickly here if we can get all the setup off. Use something like Sunny Day to get rid of the charging turn. That could be a late game strat that actually just helps us sweep through some opponents. But for now, I'm going to try to go as I am into the Rival 5 fight, and let's just see if we get a nice easy victory here or if he actually turns out to be a little bit of a wall. So Rival 5 attempt number 1, we're faster than Sneasel here because we're a fully evolved Pokemon. I'm going to put it to sleep and just start setting up growth. It's not like Sneasel has anything great to use against us. We just don't want to get a bunch of chip damage here. And getting all the growth set up is really going to help later on in the fight against things like Magneton and that Haunter. So here we just one-shot that Pokemon. Golbat comes out next. I will headbutt it. It does slightly less than half. Let's see what Razor Leaf does. It does get the KO there with a crit. Kadabra comes comes out, we outspeed in just one shot there. That brings out Typhlosion. I'll just stick with Razor Leaf, almost getting the one hitter. We take the Flame Wheel, but it doesn't do nearly enough, so we just knock that Pokemon out, getting the level 47. Magneton comes out and gets completely wrecked, and that brings out the Haunter. We outspeed Razor Leaf one shots, and just like that, we get through the Rival 5 fight with no issues whatsoever. Charmusaur is far too powerful. So with that, let me give a massive thank you to HolyFatFish. Here supporting for 5 months in the Newbark starter tier. He has made Whitney cry with this Venusaur, and we're ready to now move on to the Pokemon League in the next section. Thank you so much for your support, HolyFatFish. Let's keep this running up. So now it's time to move on to our fire types, starting with Typhlosion, and we're going to be coming in with Fire Punch, Quick Attack, Thunder Punch, and Mud Slap here. The real question is, do we have anything that can actually get us through Clair? A brief look at the moveset does present a couple of potential options to get through. Obviously, we can learn Iron Tail, though that's not going to be great against the Kingdra. Rollout is on the moveset, which maybe if we could build it up enough could allow us to get a victory. Dynamic Punch is also available here, so there are some options. I'm just not sure if they're going to be enough. Our next level up move is Swift at level 45, so that really doesn't help us at all. We're just going to have to see if we can find a way through this or not. My current thought process is that when we get to Clair, we might go Dynamic Punch or Rollout strats first to see if that somehow helps us. Return also could be explored here, since we might just need to get a certain range in order to knock out those Dragonairs, but this is going to be a little bit tough to get through, I think. Fortunately, we can get a bunch of XP before we have to worry about any of that, so let's get into the radio tower and just see how these rockets go when we have a fire type. So here with Typhlosion, we do make it to the Marlboro Man just fine. He's going to ask us for a light, so we're just going to go straight in on the fire punches here on the coughing. We get a one-hit KO on the first coughing, and I think that means that we're going to just get through all of these coughings nice and easy. Wheezing comes out fourth. We'll go fire punch. It's going to be a two-hitter. Sludge doesn't do that much though, and we outspeed, so we easily knock it out the next turn, and that should be all that we need to get through this one. So fire types look like they're going to get through the Marlboro Man perfectly fine. Much better than those grass types we were dealing with before, and we can just easily get through this section and make our way to the basement. So here it's time to get into the Rival 4 fight. Let's just see how he goes. He's going to lead off with the Golbat. We have Thunder Punch for this Pokemon, getting an easy one-hit KO. That brings out Feraligatr. We'll stick with Thunder Punch here. It's going to be a two-hitter. We get the Paralysis, and it just goes Rage, doing 5 damage, so we get a very easy victory. Hunter comes out next. I'll go Fire Punch here since it's same type, getting the one-hitter. Sneasel can get completely wrecked by a Fire Punch. And finally, Magnemite stood no chance against our Fire-type Typhlosion, so Rival 4 is just a cakewalk in this one. And that makes me think that Rival 5's not going to be too bad either. We should have a pretty easy time getting through, so let's just fight the randos. So we're just going to take on all these randos and make our way up to the final Rocket Executive here, but I think this is just going to be way easier than the previous run with the grass types. And here, of course, we easily make it to Mr. Meet Your Doom at the top of the radio tower's second part. And here he's going to lead off with his Houndour. We're just going to go ahead and go for the Thunder Punch right there to get an easy one-hit KO. We'll go Fire Punch on the coughing, getting a one-hitter. And that brings out the Houndoom. Back to Thunder Punch, I think. It's just going to be a two-hitter. He goes Smog, which doesn't do that much. So we get a very easy victory in that section. We're ready to move on to Clair. Now the question is, can we find a way through? I've also noted that Fury Cutter is an available strategy here, and who knows, maybe with enough buildup we could actually get that to work. I'm just going to have to test a lot of strategies here, since this is going to be one of the toughest gym fights for a Typhlosion in the entire run. If we can manage to get through this somehow, I think we're going to be doing pretty good when we get to the league, at least to start off. Lance might be another major wall though, so Clair's kind of a preview for the Lance fight coming up for a lot of these Pokemon. So here it's time to make our way into the gym, and obviously our special moves are resisted here. Quick Attack may not be enough. We may need to add on a stronger physical move if we're going to get through this. Obviously, we've got Headbutt in the bag as a simple go-to. Swift is also still available. Fury Cutter could be a strategy. I'm just going to test, but let's just see how we do against this first Dratini trainer. So first up here, we try to go with our Stab Fire Punch since that appears technically to be our strongest move. It's not going to be a one-hit KO. It's going to be a two-hitter. We can go for Quick Attack at that point and knock the Dratini out though. In fact, it looks like just a couple Quick Attacks will get the job done. So if we moved more turns, we would be able to get through there, but that tells me that we're probably best off going for Headbutt here, since it's going to be significantly stronger than Quick Attack, have the chance to flinch, and be dealing neutral damage. It's probably going to be a better play in this one. And sure enough, Headbutt seems to just one-shot, at least against the first Dratini. It appears to be a range after that, so it might be a situation for the Pink Bow, but one way or the other, we do manage to get through. Now Thunder Punch should get us through the randos upstairs, and I think we'll be able to get through the last trainer before Clair, but let's just see how this goes. Now here we can see that the Dragonair is a two-hit KO with Headbutt. We get a level up and learn Swift, but obviously that's a downgrade from the move we're already using, so we're never going that strategy here. So now we just have to see if we can somehow manage a range against Clair. It might require a bunch of flinches with Headbutt, I'm honestly not sure, but let's just test this out a little bit. So Clair attempt number one right here with Typhlosion. I'm going to go Headbutt on the first Dragonair, doing about half. We get paralyzed here, which is not ideal. I was hoping to get a flinch. Unfortunately, it did about half with the Surf, and then she sends out Kingdra immediately and surfs me down. So we're going to need better luck than that. We do have decent chances to get a flinch with Headbutt. I've even thrown on the King's Rock here. I forget if it stacks or not, but let's just test this out and see, because if we can get enough flinches, this should be possible to win. This time we get a Thunder Wave miss, which is also perfectly fine, getting us through that Pokemon. Kingdra comes out next. We Headbutt, doing about 36 damage, so this would be a 4-hit KO with Headbutt. Surf does over half our health, and we would need 3 flinches here on the Kingdra in order to get through. So that's clearly not going to be enough, and because the first Dragonair is using the move Thunder Wave and Surf, I don't think that we could safely set up something like a Fury Cutter here. So I think the only good strategy is to go for the Max Friendship Return. Let's see if this gives us a better range against that Kingdra and maybe gives us a chance to get through. So first up, with Return on this first Dragonair, we can see that a critical hit one-shots at least. That would have been the case with Headbutt as well though. Now we can go Return on the Kingdra, doing slightly less than half. So this might be a Pink Bow spot in order to get the 2-hitter on that Pokemon. I think the logic is pretty simple. If the Pink Bow allows us to 2-hit KO on that Pokemon, we may be able to simply luck our way through the rest of the team. So let's just test this out and see. We can see with the Pink Bow, we still don't get a one-hitter on the first Dragonair, but it did go Surf turn 1 rather than Thunder Wave, so that's perfectly fine by me. That's going to bring out the Kingdra, and now can we do 50%? It looks like we can, and with that, we're going to be able to knock that Pokemon out. That brings out the next Dragonair. Again, it's not going to be a one-hitter, but it only goes Thunderbolt. We survive. If we can maybe get a crit there, we could actually win this fight. Let's just try this a little bit more. Now in this one, we get Thunder Waved first, which is obviously not ideal. So we might go Mud Slap into Return on that first Dragonair in order to reduce its accuracy, since it's already only 75% to hit with Thunder Wave, and we could lower that accuracy even lower, just kind of like we were doing with some of the Magnemites on Jasmine's team in previous sections. And with that, that will give us a better chance to actually knock that Pokemon out with no status or damage taken. A critical hit here on Kingdra could really help, and this time we actually get a Smokescreen. She goes into the Hyper Potion. Unfortunately, we missed due to Smokescreen, but we still get the 2-hit KO on that Pokemon. We'll Mud Slap once on each Dragonair and then go Return after that. We get paralyzed, but it misses Thunderbolt, so that's perfectly fine. Last Dragonair here, goes Dragon Breath. I miss with the Mud Slap, but now I hit it. It's Dragon Breath, but it doesn't deal enough damage. We survive with 6 HP with our Typhlosion, so it just works out with the Pink Bow to actually get that to go with Typhlosion. That makes me really nervous about Quilava coming up, but Typhlosion is moving on, at least at this point. It gets to go take on rival number 5 and then have a good shot at getting to the league. The Mud Slap is still relevant here though, because you do need the miss in order to get through that, because you really don't want to be paralyzed that entire battle. That's kind of nuts, but hey, we'll take it. Let's go talk to a bunch of old guys, get access to our badge, and make our way to Victory Road. Now, once again, I'll pick up the TM for Earthquake here, but I'm not going to learn it at this point. I'm going to go with my moveset as it is right now. Let's just see how we do against Rival 5. So the rival leads off with Sneasel, which is going to be super easy. We just go for a Fire Punch, getting a one-hit KO on that Pokemon. Feraligatr's out next. We go for the Thunder Punch, nearly one-hit KOing. It uses Water Gun though, which does nothing. It's really sad that that Pokemon only has Water Gun at this point as a same type move, giving us a pretty easy victory. Golbat can get a Thunder Punch as well. It's a one-hit KO. That's going to bring out the Haunter. We'll just Fire Punch on this Pokemon. It goes down nice and easy. Return on Kadabra is a one-hit KO, and that's going to bring out the Magneton, which never stood a chance against this Typhlosion. So just like that, once we get through Clair, this is a super easy section for a fully evolved fire type like Typhlosion. It has more than enough coverage to get through, and it's ready to move on to the league. And that means it's time to now check in on Charizard and see if it stands any chance in this section. So Charizard is coming in with Rage, Fury Cutter, Flamethrower, and Mud Slap. We'll get access to Wing Attack and one more level, so that will give us a same type move as well. We might forget Rage at that point in order to learn Wing Attack. Fly is obviously also available, but we may end up going for the same sort of return strats in order to get through Clair here. That may be our best strategy for that section. For now though, I expect Flamethrower to just be completely OP in this section, so let's just use it to completely destroy these rockets and get to the Marlboro Man. So here, of course, the Marlboro Man's going to ask us again for a light, but let's light his Marlboro with a Flamethrower here. That's going to get him coughing and wheezing for sure. It's going to be just a bunch of one-hit KOs on these coughings, and as we get to the wheezing, Flamethrower still one-shots. So this is just a completely trivial fight we get through nice and easy. That, of course, gets us to the basement and rival number 4. So let's just see how he goes here. Maybe we can beat him nice and easy, just like Typhlosion. So first up, the rival leads off with his Golbat. I'm just going to go Flamethrower right here, getting a very easy victory on that one. Feraligatr's out next. Let's see what Wing Attack does here. It's going to be a 3-hitter, but Water Gun really just doesn't do that much. So it's a very easy victory to get through that Pokemon. Magnemite has no shot against our Flamethrower here. That's going to bring out the Haunter, which also we can just go Flamethrower and I think one shot. Sure enough, we do. And Sneasel just never stood a chance there. Of course, he didn't want to send it out. He just gets us to level 40 and lets us progress in the game. So I'm just going to finish beating up everything in the basement and let's make our way to the final Rocket Executive, which I think will be a complete cinch in this one. There's just no way that he actually poses a threat to this Charizard, I think. So here I'm going to come into the final executive, not even fully healed because I don't think we need to. Let's just go Wing Attack on the Houndour, getting an easy one-hit KO. Flamethrower on the Coughing will be a one-hitter as well. That brings out Houndoom. Let's go for Wing Attack since it doesn't have great defense. It just goes Smog, and yet again we get a super easy victory. Getting to level 44, we get to learn Slash. Now, as strong as Slash is, and it does have a high critical hit chance, it's not like Gen 1 where it gets guaranteed critical hits. So I'm actually going to skip the move. I think we have much stronger moves to use that will be more consistent at this point in the game. If we could have learned Slash in an earlier gym, I think it would have been a perfectly good move to use. But right now, I honestly think that we're better off with our moves as they are currently, or replacing one of our moves with something like maxed out Friendship Return. So let's just see how this actually goes in this section. It may turn out to be a mistake, but I think it's not going to be a big mistake either way. I think we're going to get to Clair herself pretty easily. It's just going to be an issue of what strategy to use on Clair. Now I'll just check on little Polly right here to see if we can manage to get through with the wing attacks against these Dratini's, and sure enough, it looks like these are one-hit KOs, so we should be getting to the gym leader perfectly fine. So in this one, I'm going to give Charizard a paralyzed Cure Berry, and I just kind of want to see how we do. I'm even going to go in not fully healed on this first one because I just want to see what the damage range looks like, and then I'll back out and see how we do when we actually properly heal up. So Clair attempt number 1, let's lead off with wing attack on the first Dragonair, and at least a critical hit gets us through that first Pokemon. The second one, we don't get the one hitter, but we can see that it looks like it's going to be a 2-hit KO. We'll just Flamethrower that Pokemon down. That brings out the third Dragonair where we can go for the wing attack. It misses Thunder Wave again. So we're getting to the Kingdra on this first attempt. This is kind of ridiculous, but now we need to go for wing attack right here. It looks like a 3-hit KO on the Kingdra, and it looks like we're getting 3-shot, but we get a crit. So we just beat Clair on the first attempt without even healing coming in. Are you kidding me? Oh my gosh, Charizard. Oh, this Pokemon is just beastly. It's far too powerful. Clearly, Clair, she needs to go complain about this being unfair with the timely crits coming in like that. Are you kidding me? Still, that means that we can simply move on. I'll actually need to heal for this next trainer because he's using Dragon Rage. We should just need enough HP to not get one shot though, so I'm gonna try this one again. But this is clearly, you know, like we must be the greatest cheaters alive because this is unbelievable. This level of luck. Oh my gosh, this cheating scandal is so egregious, I might be held out of the Pokemon Hall of Fame. Get Bill Belichick right here or something. Still, with that done, we do get access to Dragon Breath as a learnable TM, something that we could use when we get to Lancey Boy later on. But let's see if we can convince this selection committee right here to let us through, in spite of the fact that that was technically insanely lucky to get through that fight like that with Clair. Still, with that done, we're now ready to make our way to rival number 5, who's going to be highly inspired by the way that we just cheesed our way through that fight. Clearly, that's the way he hopes to be one of these days. We're just going to have to teach him that he needs a little more cheese in his movesets than what he has currently. So let's just see how the rival likes our cheating Charizard here, and hopefully we get a nice first attempt victory. He leads off with the Sneasel. We'll just go for the Flamethrower on this one, getting an easy 1-hit KO. Then we'll bring out the Feraligatr next. I'm going for wing attack here. It's going to be a 3-hitter again, but again, only Water Gun on this Pokemon. Truly shameful for a 3rd stage Pokemon in my opinion. Here we can go for the Flamethrower on the Golbat, getting the 1-hit KO on that Pokemon. Magneton comes out just to get completely melted on the first turn. We can go for Flamethrower on the Haunter, and that's going to bring out Kadabra. Wing attack will do the job, and that gets us through to the league. We're ready to go take on Willy Boy, and I think we've got a decent chance of getting at least to Lance with this Pokemon. We're just going to have to see, but for now, Charizard is through. It's time to step down to some mid-stage fire starters here. Let's check in on Quilava, because that Pokemon could be really, really sus in this section based on what we just saw. And Charmeleon's not going to get wing attack. It's going to have to do something else there, and it still might need a lot of cheese to get through. Let's check in on this and find out. Now, Quilava is coming in knowing Fire Wheel, Quick Attack, Rollout, and Mud Slap as its current moveset. Of course, unlike its evolved form, it does not get access to Elemental Punches, which is one of the main issues here for this Pokemon. We already know that we were going max power return, so I'm going to slap that on over Quick Attack since it's just going to be the obvious play here. But who knows, maybe Rollout is good enough to get us through something. Maybe we just need some really good accuracy luck on those Dragonairs. Let's test this out and see. So here we do get to the top of the first part of the radio tower. It's time for Marlboro Man. Let's see if Flame Wheel is enough to one-shot here or not. I didn't come in fully healed, but Flame Wheel on the first coughing does get a 1-hit KO. We've got 69 HP, so I think it's guaranteed that we win at this point. And we're just simply going to knock out all of these Pokemon. We get to the Weezing, which is probably a 2-hitter right here. Sure enough, it is, but it only goes Tackle, which will allow us to get the victory. And the rest of these should just have no effect on us whatsoever. the Marlboro Man once again proves that he has no way to stand up to fire. So with that done, we'll make our way down to rival number 4, who again, I think because he's stuck with just the Feraligatr, using Water Gun is not going to be that bad here. So let's just see if we get a nice easy victory on this one. So here against the Golbat, we can go for anything. I tried return just to see. It's still a 2-hit KO with that move. That's going to bring out the Feraligatr. We might be better off setting up the rollouts here to try to knock this one out. Still, we get through with 3 hits from return. That's going to bring out the Haunter. We can just go Flame Wheel. Not quite getting the 1-hitter there, though. So I think rollout strats are going to be better. Let's just test this out. So back against the rival, let's go rollout turn 1 on the first Golbat. It goes Confuse Ray. We hit ourselves in confusion. So definitely not what we want to see. If we start hitting ourselves in confusion, we're basically going to lose. But let's see if we get better luck than that in the next attempt. Now here, when he doesn't go for the Confuse Ray, it's just a 2-hitter on that first Golbat. We do pretty decent damage here against the Feraligatr, and that gives us a 2-hit KO there. Haunter, we missed the last rollout, so it gets to go Curse, unfortunately. Still, we knock it out with Flame Wheel after that. Flame Wheel destroys Sneasel, and we'll just Flame Wheel here on the final Magnemite, getting an easy 1-hit KO. So once you get through the Haunter, you're perfectly fine there, and you can move on in the game. Still, it's not looking nearly as easy as it was with Typhlosion, so I am a little nervous here. I think we'll get through all the randos just fine though, so I'll make my way to the end of this section and hopefully get a nice easy victory against the last executive. And sure enough, we get to the final executive. I'm going to try to go in without even healing. Let's just see if we can roll out and win this fight. So first up on the Houndour, I'm just going for rollout. It does well over half here, nearly getting a 1-hit KO. 2 hits takes that Pokemon down. Coughing gets another 2-hit KO range. It goes for the smoke screen on me though, breaking up my rollout. So we're going to have to go to the Houndoom with reduced accuracy, and Bite is doing significant damage. We don't get a 1-hitter with the return and we lose. Still, this is clearly a winnable fight. So let's just try this again. This time I'll just go return on the first Houndour, getting an easy 1-hit KO. Flame Wheel will, I believe, just destroy the Coughing. Sure enough, it does. And that brings us to the final Houndoom. Let's go return. It's going to be a 2-hit KO, and this time we get through nice and easy. So rollout strats are not the way to go there. You're much better off just setting up normally, and you can get through nice and easy. Still, with that done, we have to now make our way to Claire, where in her gym, we may be needing to really avoid some paralysis to have a chance here. And this could be a spot where the Defense Curl rollout strat does actually come in as our best play to get through this fight. Since again, we don't have access to elemental punches, and based on the ranges we were getting previously with our Typhlosion, it's probably just not possible to get through with return strats here. I will, of course, test everything out, but I do think that maybe a Paralyzed Cure Berry plus Defense Curl rollout could be the way to go. We might still go for like an accuracy drop plus the Defense Curl rollout with the Paralyzed Cure Berry in order to try to get through, since 2 misses from the Thunder Wave isn't that luck-based. I think it's still reasonable to reset for that. Still, let's just try to go return strats first on all the randos and just see if that's enough to get us through to the gym leader. Sure enough, we get through the first trainer just fine, so I think we're going to get through to Claire perfectly with no issues, and let's just see if this turns out to be enough. So I'm going to go in the first attempt here with a Paralyzed Cure Berry on, and I'm just going to see if I can go for like a normal rollout strat and somehow get a victory here. Let's test this out and see. So Claire attempt number 1, I'm going to go Mud Slap on the first Dragonair. It misses the first of its Thunder Waves. We'll now try to go for rollout. We miss. Surf does significant damage, but we can see that once rollout starts building up, it would be a 3-hit KO there. We would have gotten through if we hadn't gotten that one miss. So let's try this one again. In fact, it might be best to just start with the rollout anyway. I think she'll only go for Thunder Wave once here with this Pokemon and then give us the chance to heal. Unfortunately, she does go for 2 Thunder Waves, but we managed to knock out that first Dragonair. That brings out Kingdra, and it simply knocks me out with a Surf. I think we have to get through to that Pokemon with no paralysis to really have a chance here. So that makes me think that the single Mud Slap is worthwhile here, but we're going to need to get the luck to get the Thunder Wave misses if we're going to progress. This time we managed to get through the first Dragonair on full health. We set up 3 of our rollouts on the first Pokemon. She goes Surf right here. Now she Hyper Potions, but the final turn of rollout is enough to knock that one out. Now we have to get through these remaining Dragonairs though. Let's see what return does. It's going to be a 2-hit KO. Dragon Breath does decent enough damage to simply take me out. So that's where Defense Curl potentially comes in here. Of course, Defense Curl doubles the power of the rollout, and that could be what we actually need, and we may just have to reset for the luck to get a couple of misses. I'm going to test this out with Defense Curl being learned over the top of Mud Slap. Might not be the best play, but I'm going to test it just to see, because like I said, 25% of 25% is 6.25%, so the odds to get 2 misses in a row with that Thunder Wave, it's not impossible. It's the same luck as a critical hit. That might be all that we actually need. So here, let's go Defense Curl turn 1. She hits the Thunder Wave. Now we're going for rollout. We miss and she misses, so that was just bad luck right there. After that, it's just a 2-hit KO on that Dragonair though, so we should be able to get through if we just get the 2 misses from Thunder Wave here. In fact, it seems like maybe just 1 miss and 1 recovery with the Paralyzed Cure Berry, so it's better luck than that even. We just have to actually get that luck to come in. This time we get the miss that we need, so we get to Kingdra again using rollout, but this time a critical hit one-shots right there. Next Dragonair gets wrecked, and we're on the last turn of rollout when we get to the final Dragonair thanks to the crit. So we actually managed to beat Claire with the Defense Curl rollout strats. Oh, that's ridiculous. Claire's back to accusing us of cheating, as she always does. But in this case, it does feel a little bit like cheating, resetting for the misses there. But like I said, it's actually better than I thought, because I do have the Paralyzed Cure Berry on, so that means that we get one of those Thunder Wave misses effectively for free. So it's really more like a 25% chance of getting the luck to actually get through. And for a mid-stage fire type, that's really not bad luck to reset for in that situation. So quick update from Teo in the future here. I realized after the fact that I had given Quilava access to Defense Curl, even though that TM is not technically available at this point in the game. So we were really cheating here, and Claire has every right to be upset with the fact that we actually beat her. The thing is that when I go through these runs, in order to avoid wasting time running around picking everything up, I tend to lock in a bunch of TMs and special items so that I just have them with every single Pokemon. But this was just a mistake on my part, jumping straight to that move when it wasn't actually available, because I had mentioned that it would be available in this section when I was doing the Bulbasaur section of this run. However, I've decided to let the Quilava stand for now, because Quilava and Charmeleon have exactly identical stats. That means any strategy that works for one of them will work for both of them. And I did find a strategy with the Charmeleon that would be relevant here to the Quilava. So on that basis, I'm gonna let this go. Just jump ahead to the Charmeleon section against Claire to see how I get through her there. I think you'll understand that because it's the same move, we could have used that as well here, but I may come back and just do a redo of Quilava at the start of the next episode or something like that to correct this. For now though, let's get back to the action. Now I think some later fire types might also need to play around with some Sunny Day strats in order to reduce the damage that they take from water type moves. That's something that I'll certainly look at later on. But right now, I've been able to find a way through these fights just by using normal attacking moves and normal strategies without wasting a slot on Sunny Day just yet. And so just like that, we are ready to now move on to the Rival 5 fight. And if we get through that, then Quilava is going to go from a Pokemon that initially failed on Falconer until I went back and changed up my strategy in redos to a Pokemon that makes it all the way to the league on minimum battles, and that's just insane to me. It's such a small margin for error in some parts of the game with this Pokemon, but if it can manage to even put a dent in the league, that's gonna be excellent work for this Pokemon. So let's just get to the Rival 5 fight, see if we can get through nice and easy and make our way through this section. So here it's time for rival number 5. He's going to lead off with the Sneasel, of course. And I think this is a good spot to set up Defense Curl and go into Rollout. And let's just see if we can get the KO. We one-shot that Pokemon. Feraligatr comes out next. It's going to get 2-hit KO'd by the Rollout. We miss. Definitely bad luck there. And that means we might actually lose this first attempt just because we didn't hit the Rollout there. We get to the Golbat. We do get a critical hit one-shot on that Pokemon. Haunter comes out. We can go for Flame Wheel. We just missed the range to one-shot, but it just goes Curse, so that's fine. Kadabra, we can go Return, getting a one-hit KO. And that brings out the Magneton, where we go Flame Wheel, and we get a very easy victory in spite of the fact that I didn't come in fully healed. We got the miss from Rollout there that would have knocked out the Feraligatr. Doesn't matter. We get through with Quilava, and now it's time to see if this Pokemon can make its way through the league, which is nuts. Just crazy, considering that back in episode 1, I had this Pokemon failing, and now here we are standing at the doorstep of the league. Are you kidding me? And that definitely means we're gonna have to get to that member pick Cyndaquil here, because if Quilava can do this, then Cyndaquil with the right moves might just be ready to take on the league as well. But before we get to that, let's check in on Charmeleon. Let's see how it goes. I'm excited for this. I'm not feeling too bad about these fire types at all. So Charmeleon comes into this section knowing Flamethrower, Fury Cutter, Headbutt, and Mud Slap, so a pretty similar set to its evolved form. Let's just see if this turns out to be enough in this section though. After all, we are a little bit weaker. We will not get access to Wing Attack here. So our next level up move is going to be Slash at level 41, which might be more usable on this Pokemon given that it has that high critical hit chance to go together with being effectively the same power as Headbutt. Still, we should have no issues, I think, on these rando trainers here in the radio tower, so let's just get through them nice and quick and make our way up to the Marlboro Man at the top of this first section. So here we make it to the Marlboro Man at the top of this section. Let's just go for Flamethrower on the first Coughing. That is a one-hit KO, and with that, I think we're getting through to the Wheezing at least with no issues. Wheezing might be a two-hitter here. It might go Boom. That's our biggest fear, but outside of that, I think we're going to get a victory here. It survives with just a Sliver. We can just headbutt it down from there, and that will bring out the last two Coughings, which easily go down when you Flamethrower against them. They're super easy to get through, and we get to level 39. So with that done, it's time to now go take on rival number 4 with this Charmeleon. Let's just see how he goes. Quick note on resets and TMs here. It seems like the overlay is not resetting properly. I've been doing a bunch of overlay updates on the back end, and some of these things I have to do a lot of testing to figure out why they're not working the way they were before. Could just be minor issues with how I updated my code. So just understand that the resets are not like that at all. I've reset a couple times to get through some spinners, but that is basically it. So here, Rival 4 attempt number 1. Let's just go for Flamethrower on the first Golbat. It does not quite get the one-hitter, so we're going to have to Headbutt after that. That brings out Feraligatr. I'm going Headbutt here. We get a Flinch turn 1, Flinch turn 2, critical hit turn 3. Water Gun doesn't do that much, and we easily get through that Pokemon. That brings out Haunter. We'll go for the Flamethrower, getting the one-hit KO. Sneasel is going to get completely destroyed by Flamethrower. We get to level 40 as the Magnemite comes out, and it never stood a chance. So sure enough, Charmeleon gets through the rival super easy. Now we should have an easy time with all of these randos, so let's make our way to the end of this section. So now we do get a level up and learn Slash, and I'm going to learn this move over Headbutt. We could always relearn Headbutt later, but the idea is that Slash is the same power, but also gets access to the high critical hit chance. Might be better than going for the flinches, but I'm honestly not sure. Let's just test this out and see. For now, that's the strategy I'm going to go with. So here, of course, we do make it to the final executive. I'm just going to go Slash, I think, mostly in this fight. Let's see how it goes against Houndour. We go Slash, getting a one-hit KO. Coughing comes out next. Let's Flamethrower this Pokemon to get an easy one-hitter there. And that brings out Houndoom. We go Slash. It does about half, and we Slash again to get the easy victory, getting to level 44. So just like that, Charmeleon gets through this entire rocket section. We're ready to go to Claire's gym, and let's just see if we can manage a victory against the dragon type gym leader. There are a lot of strats to try here. Of course, we can go Slash with something like a King's Rock to try to get through that way. Return, of course, will be stronger, but doesn't have that high critical hit chance. This may be a spot to at least investigate some Sunny Day strats if we struggle with everything else, because Sunny Day effectively would reduce the power of Surf and effectively negate the resistance that the opponents have to our fire type moves. So of course we would still be dealing very little damage with anything like Flamethrower against that. Kingdra, I think it still could be a strat. So let's just test everything out and see, but I'm going to lead off with the most logical strats that are going all in for attack with neutrally effective damage and just see if that's enough. I think Slash will get us to Clair. It's just a question of if it's enough on Clair herself. So here against Polly, sure, we're just going to go for Slash and not get a one-hit KO. So it looks like we're actually going to need a little bit of luck here to actually get through this. Something like a Pink Bow could help, but I think our better strategy is to go for something like a King's Rock here, which, as long as Bulbapedia is correct, should work with Slash. So here we do manage to get to Clair just fine. So let's test this out and see if we can manage the victory or not. It's going to probably be a little rough. We're going to have to do a little bit of testing to see if anything actually works out. So Clair attempt number 1, I'm going to lead off by trying to go Slash strats here. Let's just see if this can get us through or not. It looks like Slash did slightly less than half damage to the first Dragonair, so we would need a crit just to get through this first Pokemon from the looks of it. That will bring out the Kingdra second, so I'm going to go Slash here. We get a critical hit this time, but it still does less than half. So we would need much better luck than that, or flinches, if we were actually going to get through with this move. Now, the other thing to try, of course, is to try building up Fury Cutter on the first Dragonair. Since a fully built up Fury Cutter is effectively 160 base power, that would be a lot stronger than Slash if we can get there. So let's test this out and see. I'm going to go Fury Cutter turn 1. We are going to get surfed here though, so once we get paralyzed, that's probably not going to work. We're going to need a Paralyzed Cure Berry instead of the King's Rock, I think, to get this one to work out. But with that, let's just test this again. We can see obviously the first Fury Cutter does basically nothing. We crit the second one. We get hit by Thunder Wave, but we recover the paralysis. Now we get paralyzed again and surfed. Fury Cutter takes 4 hits to knock out that first Pokemon. Here we get to the Kingdra and we just get wrecked. So this does not quite look like it's going to work out. We can go for a Mud Slap here to try to reduce the accuracy of the Dragonair though, and that might enable us to get an extra miss or two. Let's test this out and see. This time we get multiple Thunder Wave misses, so we're getting the Kingdra with Fury Cutter pretty well built up. We don't one-shot here, but it is going to be a 2-hit KO as she Hyper Potions as long as we don't miss. So we do knock that Pokemon out. That gets us to the second Dragonair, which we knock out with a single Fury Cutter. And now if we don't miss, we win. Sure enough, we managed to hit it on the last Dragonair. So Fury Cutter strats allow you to get through Clair with a Charmeleon. Is that going to work with Charmander? I'm not super confident, but hey, it is a strategy. We did manage to get through the gym, and now we're ready to move on to rival number 5. So here we're going to tell some old guys about how we used the TM from the second gym to completely destroy the 8th gym. They're going to say that's very commendable and demand that Clair gives us our badge because of our incredibly good strategic thinking against her. Clearly, she needs to go back to the drawing board. She's going to tell Lance about this, and he's just going to laugh that if she used real fully evolved dragons, she'd never have to worry about the Fury Cutter strats. But for now, we stunt on her, and we're going to move on to the rival. It's just so much fun to watch her complain about losing over and over and over again, knowing that like she beat us multiple times, but we only beat her once, and still we get to kind of go and tell her bosses that we're better than her. Clearly, we're terrible people. One of these days, we're going to have to come back and do some no resets runs to see if we can ever get a deathless run through the game with some of these Pokemon. But for now, we'll just take the cheese as we manage to get through. And really not with that many resets. So I don't feel really too much regret about how we're getting through when we're getting through within a reasonable number of resets. It would be one thing if I had been sitting here resetting for the past half hour, but we can see real time this section, I've only been working on it for 18 15 minutes, and a lot of that was the rocket section, so really not bad at all. But now we're ready to make our way up to rival number 5. I think I'm going to start off with the Fury Cutter strat since he leads off with Sneasel anyway, and we know Feraligatr's coming out second. It might be best to just set that move up, and then we can basically Flamethrower everything else. Let's see how this actually works. So rival 5 attempt number 1, I'm going Fury Cutter on the Sneasel. He's Fury Cuttering against me, but we get a 3-hit KO, whereas his 2 hits did basically nothing. That brings out the Feraligatr. The 4th hit of Fury Cutter does slightly less than half, but we hit the next one, and that gets us the victory there. Now I think we can just go into Flamethrower the rest of the way. For the Golbat, it's not quite a 1-hitter, but it will be a 2-hit KO. That's going to bring out the Haunter next. We'll go Flamethrower right here, getting the 1-hitter. Kadabra, we can go Slash, and I don't think it can stand up to that. Sure enough, it goes down in 1 hit, and Flamethrower is going to melt the Magneton, allowing us to get through this section nice and easy. I think that there should be like a Steel Fire type that is a melted Magneton. That's a new Pokemon that I want, but only if it's like a dripping Magneton, basically, that's been hit by a Flamethrower. But with that, Charmeleon joins the ranks of Pokemon that have made it to the Pokemon League. We've got the Fury Cutter for the first fight against Willy Boy. Flamethrower is going to be pretty good against a lot of Pokemon on Koga's team. We're going to have to see how we do against Bruno, but assuming that we can find a way through there, maybe with some dynamic punch on the Onix, we may be able to make a deep run into the league. We're just going to have to see, but for now, Charmeleon moves on, and it's time to get to the first stage Charmander and see if it can match up with what we've done so far. But with all that done, that brings us to Charmander, who's coming in with Flamethrower, Rage, Headbutt, and Mud Slap in this section. We're just going to have to see how this goes getting through, but I think we'll get through all the randos inside of the Rocket Hideout nice and easy. So let's just try to make our way straight through that. On to Clair. If we can get through Clair, I think we've got a good chance to get to the league. So this is going to be nuts to try to find out if this first stage starter can actually get the job done. Now in this one, we once again get to learn Slash. I'm going to learn it over Rage, since I think Rage is weak enough that we don't need to go for that move. And that will just give me a little extra damaging PP as we go through the Rocket storyline. And that is, of course, enough to bring us to the Marlboro Man at the top of the first part of the radio tower, where we're going to just take on the Coughings. Flamethrower one-shots the first Coughing, so I'm pretty sure it's going to get us through this entire fight. But let's just see if that's actually the case or not, because we are running low on PP in this move at this point. I should have recovered coming in. It looks like it's a 2-hitter on the Weezing, but Slash does finish that one off, leaving us with 2 Flamethrowers to get through the last couple Coughings. And that should be all that we need to get through this section. So with that, we're ready to now go downstairs and check in on rival number 4 and see how he goes with our Charmander. So one reset here because I came into the rival 4 fight once without healing, but now with proper PP restored, let's see how we do against the rival. I'm going to lead off with Flamethrower on the first Golbat. It's going to be a 2-hit KO on this Pokemon as we get confused. Still, we managed to get through just fine. Feraligatr comes out next. Let's go for Slash here. Let's just see if we can deal decent enough damage. Unfortunately, we hit ourselves twice in confusion, so we didn't even get to see the range. Let's try this one again. This time we get Wing Attack from the Golbat instead, so we aren't confused going to the Feraligatr. I'll go Slash here. We get a critical hit, and it only did that much, so that makes me think that this is going to be a little bit rough. We get a flinch and then a Water Gun, but that is enough to actually get us through the Feraligatr. We'll go for Flamethrower on the Haunter, getting a 1-hit KO, and that should mean the other 2 Pokemon are perfectly fine. Sneasel did outspeed, but it simply got knocked out, and the Magnemite never stood a chance here as we simply one-shot it. So it's a little bit worse because we are a first stage Pokemon, but we still managed to get through the rival with no real issues there. And now I think we're perfectly fine for the rest of these randos, so let's just see if we can get to the final Rocket Executive in this section. Now, interestingly enough, Charmander does level up enough to learn Dragon Rage right here, a move that will deal 40 fixed damage and could be useful in some spots. So I'm going to learn it for now over Headbutt. We could always relearn Headbutt later if we decide that we don't want Dragon Rage anymore, but this could be a strat in some key spots if we just need to get a certain range against an opponent. And with that, we do manage to get to the final executive here, so let's just see if we get an easy win against Mr. Meet Your Doom. Let's go for Slash on the Houndour, getting a one-hit KO. We'll go for Flamethrower on the Coughing. That is also a one-hitter, so that brings out the final Houndoom. We can go Slash. We can see it still has 49 HP remaining, so Slash is the way to go to knock it out from there, and we get to level 44 nice and easy with our Charmander. And with that, we're ready to make our way through Ice Path and make our way to Clair, and it's just a question of whether or not we can actually manage to get through this fight. We're going to test a ton of strategies here. We might even go for the Sunny Day strats just to see. They might give us a way to get through by taking less damage from water type moves. So the real test first up is just whether or not we can even get through the Dratini's at the start of this gym easily. Let's see how they go. I'm going to lead off with Slash here. Obviously, these are going to be 2-hit KOs. And we can see Dragon Rage is doing significant damage, so we're going to need some critical hits here to get through, I think. And we simply go down on the first attempt. It looks like Flamethrower and Slash basically do the same amount of damage, funny enough. And Dragon Rage is a 2-hitter on these Pokemon no matter what. And if they just miss enough Thunder Waves, we can simply win on the basis that we're dealing fixed damage here. So it's possible to get through, but it's not pretty getting through that first trainer. That makes me really nervous going through the gym. I think we're going to have to go Max Power Return possibly. Dynamic Punch is also a potential strategy for getting confusion on the opponent. And I've mentioned before, we could go for some sort of rest plus mint berry strategy in order to heal here, but I'm just not sure how this is actually going to work out with our Charmander. So here it is possible to get through to Clair, but it was not pretty. We needed crits against a lot of these trainers just to get through the Seadras and Dratini's and Dragonairs. So I'm not sure if we're actually getting through with this Pokemon or if we're going to need just insane luck to get this one to go. But let's get in here and start testing out some strategies. Now, it's worth noting that we've already gone for the Fury Cutter strat earlier on and forgotten the move, so our tools are a little bit limited as we come into this gym. Still, let's just test this out first with the moveset we've got with the King's Rock on and just see if this manages to somehow get us through. Otherwise, we'll start exploring other options. So first up on Clair's first Dragonair, we're going for Slash. It did less than half damage, so a critical hit is not going to one-shot here, and it's going to end up taking 3 hits to get through this Pokemon. With Paralysis and Surf, we simply get knocked out. Now, as I mentioned, one strategy that could at least be worth trying is a Dynamic Punch strat. Basically, with the logic being that we can confuse the Pokemon if we actually connect, and that gives a 50-50 shot that the opponent hits themselves in confusion, allowing us to knock them out after that. So I'm simply going to test this. It's probably not going to be great, but I'm going to learn it over Dragon Rage because at this point, Dragon Rage isn't going to get us any victories, I don't think. Let's just see if that's enough or not. So when we hit Dynamic Punch, it does over half to the Dragonair. It still goes Thunder Wave right here, but then maybe we can just go Slash and get a victory. Sure enough, we can knock that Pokemon out, though it did get a critical hit there. And of course, we get wrecked by the Kingdra. With the Dynamic Punch, we might be better off going for the Paralyzed Cure Berry. I'm honestly not sure, but I'm going to test this just a few more times to see. I think we're resetting for a run where the Dragonair hits itself in confusion after the Dynamic Punch connects, which is approximately a 1 in 4 chance. It turns out that Slash is not enough to just knock out the Pokemon after that though, so that's where the Max Power Return may come in here to try to give us that extra strategy for getting through. So I'm going to forget Slash in order to learn Return here. Let's just see what that does for our ranges as we get back into this one. So here I'm still going to lead off with Dynamic Punch, hoping to confuse the Dragonair and get it to hit itself. It misses Thunder Wave this time, and Return does finish that Pokemon off. That brings out Kingdra next. We missed the Dynamic Punch, unfortunately, and a critical hit Surf does 1-hit KO. Still, we have some semblance of a strategy here, so I'm going to reset on this for a few attempts just to see if I can get the luck to actually get the Dynamic Punches to hit, and if we can get any turns of the opponent hitting themselves in confusion. It's also clear that a Dynamic Punch with a critical hit would one-shot here against this first Dragonair, and if it hits itself in confusion, then we're definitely guaranteed to just knock it out with no damage taken. We land Dynamic Punch on Kingdra, and that did 38 damage right there, so this would still be a 4-hit KO. It goes Surf right here, and Surf just knocks us out from full health. So that makes me think that we need Sunny Day here in order to reduce the damage that we're taking from the water type moves, which is going to require a little bit more luck, but I'm still going to try it. I'm going to throw it on over Mud Slap and just see if that gives me any sort of an advantage here. It will also power up Flamethrower technically, so that may mean that we're dealing even more damage with that move more consistently. So in this case, my strategy is pretty simple. I'm still going Dynamic Punch first, trying to get the confusion on the Dragonair. If I can get it to hit itself in confusion, then I will set up Sunny Day. And in this case, it might be better to put on a Paralyzed Cure Berry so that we can avoid getting that paralysis. Let's just test this out and see. So here we can set up Sunny Day as the Dragonair does hit us with the Thunder Wave, but we heal with the Paralyzed Cure Berry. We can go Flamethrower just to finish this Pokemon off. That brings out the Kingdra next. We're in Strong Sunlight. We miss with the Dynamic Punch, but it misses a Smoke Screen. Now we hit Dynamic Punch, getting it confused. We can see it did about half to us here. We're still going to need this Pokemon to hit itself in confusion at least 1 or 2 times in order to get through. Still, let's just see what Sunny Day into Flamethrower does against this Dragonair. It's going to be a 2-hit KO as well, but as long as it misses one of those Thunder Waves, we're actually able to get through without any status. Getting to the Kingdra, it hits itself in confusion once. Now we hit it with Return. It snaps out of confusion just like that though. She goes for the Hyper Potion even though she had us in the KO range. We hit another Dynamic Punch, but it doesn't hit itself in confusion, so we lose. This is really not looking great for our Charmander. Of course, I'm going to give it a decent number of attempts, but I think we may be in some serious trouble here. This time Kingdra hits itself in confusion. We use Return. It does go Surf there. She Hyper Potions, but she should still be confused. If we could crit here, we would definitely win. And unfortunately, we just get knocked out again. This time we get a critical hit Dynamic Punch. The Kingdra hits itself in confusion. We go Return and we actually managed to knock it out. So apparently she wasn't going to heal in that spot. Now we get to the second Dragonair that does not know any water type moves. So I think we can go for Sunny Day again here to boost the power of our moves. Flamethrower will 2-shot from here. It misses a Thunder Wave. Are you kidding me? We're getting like crazy luck here. Flamethrower on the last Dragonair. It goes Dragon Breath, but that's not enough. We actually managed to get through Clair. It took 33 attempts there with me testing different strategies, obviously resetting when I got paralyzed, but it is possible to get a Charmander through that. That's ridiculous. It ended up taking Sunny Day strats to be able to even survive a hit and Dynamic Punch strats in order to get the confusion. That's probably too luck-based to actually get through most of the time, but we managed to get the luck, so I'm gonna take it. We're gonna move on to the league with this Charmander. It's probably not deserving of being at this point in the game, but we have made it go. The 77 resets that show over there on the side, of course, is like cumulative of all these runs that I've been doing. Like I mentioned, that just doesn't seem to be resetting for each Pokemon properly, but hey, we'll at least take that we got through. If we get lucky, we get lucky. That's just the way that it goes in these. And now we can simply get through the Dragon Trainer in the Dragon's Den, and we're ready to move on to Rival 5 in the league. So here we are, ready to take on the rival. Let's just see how this fight goes. We're coming in first against the Sneasel, where I'm just going to go Flamethrower and get an easy one-hit KO on that Pokemon. Feraligatr comes out next, and this might be a spot to again go for Dynamic Punch. We miss. Water Gun does decent damage here. Sunny Day will obviously reduce the damage from that move. Here we manage to hit and confuse the Feraligatr. We can go for Flamethrower since it's our strongest move after the Sunny Day. We do get the one-hitter there. After that, Golbat goes down in a single hit. Haunter, we can stick with the Flamethrower here, getting an easy victory. Kadabra, we're ready to go for Return. And with that going down, Magneton doesn't stand a chance against this Charmander. It just gets wrecked. So Charmander does in fact get to the league on minimum battles. That is nuts. I don't know how we managed to get that to go, but we did. Probably luck-based, probably doesn't deserve to be here, but we've gotten here. So hey, we're going to take it and we're going to just see how much we can do here against the league with this Charmander. This is going to be crazy. I think we have to carry Sunny Day the rest of the way, basically. Dynamic Punch can probably be forgotten at some point. We're probably going to need Fire Blast at some point to have a chance of getting through here, but it's just crazy to me that we actually managed to get the luck on Clair to get through after I started testing that Dynamic Punch strategy. Just absolute insanity here, but we are managing to get through to the league. Clair did not wall this Charmander. Keep in mind, it's in the medium slow level up group though, so it's all the way up at level 47 at this point and still has rare candies available. There would be 8 rare candies available at this point in the game. You could get up to level 55 right here with this Pokemon at this point. If it manages to get through Will, get through Koga, it could level up with rare candies around Bruno or Karen and might just find a way through Lance. We're gonna have to see, but for now, we can say that our legit fire types have all gotten through. It's time to check on the member pick Cyandquil and see if it can manage as well. So we are coming in with channel member Flamerai's Lil Flame, and let's just see how this Pokemon does here. It's coming in knowing Flamethrower, Rollout, Defense Curl, and Headbutt. So it's already got the Defense Curl Rollout strat on. Let's see if it can actually manage to get through this section with that moveset though. Now, since our Lil Flame already knows Flamethrower, it's obviously much stronger than something like Flame Wheel, so we should get through this rocket section just fine, I think. So let's make our way straight up to Marlboro Man. And sure enough, Marlboro Man is ready to take us on at the top of the first part of the radio tower. We go Flamethrower on the first coughing, and that's still getting the one-hitter here. So I think we're going to be perfectly fine as long as we get through the Wheezing. And I think Wheezing only beats us if it goes Explosion turn 1. Here it goes Smokescreen and fails, and that's going to allow us to easily get through. And just like that, we're ready to go through the rest of these Pokemon. So with that being done, it's time to go to the basement, take on rival number 4. I think we've got a good enough moveset for him. We may need to set up the Defense Curl Rollout in order to get through it, but let's just test this out and see. So rival 4 attempt number 1, let's go Defense Curl turn 1 and then go for Rollout turn 2. We nearly get the one-hit KO on the first Golbat. It confuses us with Confuse Ray, but it does go down in 2 hits. Then we hit ourselves in Confusion though, and that's basically all she wrote for this one, I think, because we're just not going to deal enough damage here to the Feraligatr. Even with a critical hit, we just didn't take it down. Let's try this again though. Maybe we can get better luck not getting confused. I might even throw on a Bitter Berry in order to avoid confusion here. That might be the required play to actually get through this. This time we do manage to get through Golbat without any confusion, and on Feraligatr it looks like a simple 2-hit KO with Rollout to take it down. Haunter comes out and Rollout destroys that Pokemon. And now for Sneasel, we can just go into the Flamethrower. It just went Feint Attack but gets one shot from there as we get to level 40, and Magnemite never stood a chance. So we get a very easy victory once we get through without confusion. The Bitter Berry definitely helps, but in this one, we didn't end up using it. The Golbat just went for a couple of wing attacks, allowing us to get through that way as well. And with that, I think we're going to get through everything else pretty easily here. So we'll make our way up to the final Rocket Executive and just finish out this section before we get to the real challenge, which will be Clair. And sure enough, we make it to the final executive, so let's just see how he goes here. I'm going to set up Defense Curl first, and then let's just roll out on the Houndour, getting an easy one-hit KO there. The Coughing, we can get a 2-hitter, very easy, and that brings out the Houndoom. We hit the Rollout and simply destroy it, getting the level 44. So just like that, Cyndaquil gets through with no issues. We're ready to move on to the gym now, and this is where things could get tough. I'm going to make sure to have Sunny Day as an option here since we may need that to survive even a couple turns. I think we're also going to be going for that Paralyzed Cure Berry as our main strat as we try to set up the Defense Curl Rollout. There's always that 25% chance for Thunder Wave to miss, but we want to reduce how many misses we need in order to get through, and that may be our best possible strategy for getting through this gym. We'll just have to see. Here it does seem like Rollout is enough to get through the first trainer Paul with his Dratinis. The key there though is to actually flinch turn 1 against the first Dratini, then set up the defense curl Rollout and have a paralyzed Cure Berry on just in case in order to get through if you do get paralyzed. That time you went Dragon Rage after I got the flinch and that was enough to allow me to get through, but you're definitely resetting for a little bit of luck there. And here we managed to make it through all the trainers and get to Claire herself. Once again, it's paralyzed Cure Berry time. We would have to collect a bunch of these and wait days in order to get this to work, I think. But once we get the paralyzed Cure Berry on, I think we have a chance here with the defense curl Rollout strat. We may just need one miss from that first Dragonair's Thunder Wave. Let's see how this goes. So first attempt against Claire, I go defense curl. We get Surf turn 1, taking us below half health. I'm pretty sure when that happens, we're just guaranteed to get KO'd. Oh, I reset too quickly. We actually had 3 HP remaining there. So it looks like we're maybe a 2-hit KO range in this situation. Still, it didn't look like we were going to 2-shot there against the Dragonair, which has me a little nervous because I think we need to get a pretty good range here if we're going to actually get through. And we don't get to quite see the range there because we were fully paralyzed. Let's try this a few more times. This time we get the turn 1 miss from Thunder Wave, and then we do 2-shot the Dragonair with a crit. That brings out Kingdra, which we do not 1-shot here, and we simply get wrecked by the Surf. So we need to get through the first Dragonair at least with no damage, I think, if we're going to get this to go. So we're really hoping that it gets obsessed with Thunder Wave here and gives us the miss that we need. And we're going to have to reset for that level of luck. It's about a 25% chance for that to happen. In fact, it might be worth trying to get a flinch with Headbutt turn 1, then setting up Defense Curl, and then hoping that we can get the Rollout to knock this one out. We do. We get to the Kingdra on full health, only to miss the Rollout immediately, and we get 1-shot by the Surf, so we weren't going to get through there anyway. There is a range where we can get a 3-hitter on the first Dragonair though, and if we get that range, we might actually be able to get this to go. Unfortunately, we got the 2-hitter this time, and we would need to crit the Kingdra in order to get through at that point. I think we need a low roll here, and we just don't get it on the Dragonair this time as well, which means Surf is simply too much. Still, I have seen the range where it turns into a 3-hitter here, which is why I'm resetting for it. And when we don't get the luck to hit like that, I think I'm going to reset over and over again, at least until I get to see if we can get that range to actually work out for us. So like this time, it would have been a 3-hit range on the Dragonair. The problem is just that we're paralyzed, so we're going to get knocked out by Kingdra immediately. So it might be asking too much luck to get that low roll on the first Dragonair, at least with any sort of consistency. Of course, we don't know exactly what random numbers would be needed here, but this is a case where you might want a slightly weaker Cyandquil in order to actually get the range that you want consistently against this Dragonair to guarantee that you get a 3-hitter there rather than a 2-hitter. It's also worth noting that if we do get that range, we're really hoping that the Dragonair changes into using Surf against us, since that would give us a better shot. But otherwise, a critical hit on the Kingdra seems to be what we need. So instead of that, let's just see what happens if we go for like headbutt strats here. We get a nice flinch on the Dragonair turn 1. We get paralyzed turn 2, but we can knock it out turn 3. That will bring us to Kingdra, where headbutt here is doing not even 30 damage, 29 damage there. We survive with 1 HP this time against the Surf, but we're still getting knocked out after that. Everything's not a 1-hit KO here. So it looks like this isn't going to quite work out for us. So that raises the question of whether or not it's better to go for Sunny Day, for example, over Headbutt, allowing us to get less damage from Surf and deal more damage with a move like Flamethrower as a possible way to get through this. I'm going to test this out just a little bit. So here I'm going to set up Sunny Day first. We get Thunder Waved, which is perfectly fine. We're hoping that it goes Surf against us. In fact, it ends up going for Dragon Breath in this case because of the fact that we've got the harsh sunlight out. And unfortunately, we still get wrecked by the Kingdra. We would need a better range than that to get through. So we're probably hoping for like a turn 1 Thunder Wave miss. And unfortunately, when we get on too low health, of course, Kingdra's still going to knock us out with this setup. Let's see what happens if instead we go Flamethrower here. We do over half in that case to the first Dragonair, allowing us to get a 2-hit KO. That brings us to the Kingdra, where it still goes Surf. We survive, and of course, we were fully paralyzed there. This time we get a nice Thunder Wave miss. We get a recover with the Fairy, so we're to the Kingdra on full health. I'm going to set up Rollout here. We get a Smokescreen miss. Now we get Surf, which does about half. We would still need a critical hit here, but we might be able to get through more consistently with this strategy. Now, when we get the turn 1 Thunder Wave miss, in that case, I think we can go for Sunny Day and then go into Defense Curl Rollout on the basis that if we do get the 2-hitter, we're going to survive at least 1 turn against Kingdra. It goes for Smokescreen here, then she Hyper Potions, but that does let us get through that Pokemon. We get to the second of these Dragonairs, only to find, of course, that we've run out of Rollout, we missed, and in that case, we simply lose. So it's still not perfect, but it is maybe a little bit better in that situation to go for the Rollout now. Still, we're going to lose this one most of the time, it looks like. Still, I'm at least going to test this out a little bit more because maybe, just maybe, we can find a range that works. Otherwise, I think Max Power Return is our next try here, just to see if that does anything for us. This time, we just barely managed to survive against the Surf, but we do manage to knock out the Kingdra. We make it to the second to last Dragonair, which we also one-shot. And now the issue is that we get to the final Dragonair with too little HP, and anything short of crazy luck here would not get us through. It's just going to knock us out with a 100% accurate move. So unfortunately, we still lost in that case, even though we got to the final Dragonair. Now, I think a big reason for this is just that Defense Curl Rollout takes too much time to build up. And in that case, we may be better off with the Max Power Return here. Let's just test it out and see. So in this case, I'm going to learn Return over the top of Defense Curl because the Defense Curl TM is just about to be available. This Cyandquil previously got Defense Curl by virtue of being a member pick, so technically can forget the move and relearn the move if it wants to have the Defense Curl Rollout later. So let's just test this and see if that gives us a way to get through this fight. So now I'll still set up Sunny Day turn 1, but now let's see what Return does here. It's going to be a 2-hit KO on this Dragonair, but at this point we would only need 1 miss from the Thunder Wave to get through the first Pokemon at least pretty reliably. And sure enough, we can knock that one out. That brings us to Kingdra. We've got Strong Sunlight, and it looks like this is going to be a 3-hit KO on the Kingdra at this point, but it doesn't heal, so we do manage to win there. That brings us to the second to last Dragonair. It does get Thunder Wave and then Thunderbolt with a critical hit takes me to 1 HP, but we might have had a victory in that setup. So let's try this just a little bit more. A few attempts later, we're back to Kingdra on full health. It hits Surf and does pretty good damage. It's looking like we're in a 2-hit KO range there. If it gets a low roll, we can survive 2 Surfs. If it gets a high roll, we cannot. But it's not guaranteed to use Surf there, which is the key point here. I think we generally lose when the Kingdra goes Surf turn 1. I think it's more likely to go for Surf when it knows it will get the 2-hit range, and more likely to go for something else when it won't. That's just my guess, though. That's what it seems like from resetting here for a little bit. Still, a critical hit might be enough to get us through right there, so I am going to reset just a little bit more to see if I can get it. So at this point, I'm kind of running low on options, I think, to try to get through this fight. I think the last real try is to go for maybe some Mud Slap strats, but I'm not sure if this is actually going to work or not. Still, let's test it out and see. I'm going to learn Mud Slap over Flamethrower because we could get Fire Blast at this point when we get to the league, and with a weak Pokemon like this, we may need the Fire Blast. It's probably a mistake, to be perfectly honest, but I am going to test it out just because I want to keep the Rollout as a possibility going forward. We would, in fact, even learn Flamethrower at level 46, so it's possible that we could just get this move right back after this. So that's why I'm just going to test this and see if maybe Mudslap strats can help us here. So I still think we go Sunny Day turn 1 and then into the returns on the Dragonair. On Kingdra now, I'm going to go Mudslap first, hoping to lower its accuracy, and maybe we can get some crazy accuracy luck to get us through this one. And in this case, I'm even going to try to set up the rollout here on the basis that we might just be able to get some misses from that first Dragonair. We get to the Kingdra doing really good damage. With the rollout, we miss after that, and unfortunately we're going to go down, but if we could have landed one more hit, we might have actually won there. So let's just test this a little more. So the entire logic here is that first Dragonair is very likely to go for a bunch of Thunder Wave against us, but if we Mudslap, we'll always recover one of those Thunder Waves. We can set up like 3 Mudslaps here, and if we can get through 3 Mudslaps without being paralyzed, then we have a decent chance of actually setting up Rollout here. It's still going to be pretty luck-based, but it might be our best try so far. So this time we do get to the Kingdra yet again. It goes Surf this time, and it's going to go Surf if it gets a critical hit and just one-shots me, so unfortunately there's nothing we can do for that. This time we get through to Kingdra once again, dealing really good damage. She goes for Smokescreen. We get the miss here. Unfortunately, that's going to be enough to knock us out at that point. So yet again, we just have to get the luck to actually get this to work. I can see the strategy actually working out for us. It's just going to be a matter of whether or not we can get the number of turns that we need. And she is smart to go for Smokescreen there, but we just need one to hit through the Smokescreen. A few attempts later, we're back to Kingdra again. It goes Surf this time, and as long as Rollout hits, we will knock that Pokemon out. Now to the second to last Dragonair, it goes Thunderbolt, but we survive, and it's a 2-hitter with the return. And now return on the final Dragonair, it goes for the Thunder Wave and then the Dragon Breath, and we just couldn't move. So we lost. We got so close that time. That makes me think that this one is possible if we just get the setup off. We get a run where she fails with a Smokescreen. That allows us to get through the Kingdra on full health going to the first Dragonair. And now I think we've got this in the bag. We even get a crit right there. So we're to the final Dragonair here. We get paralyzed, but we've got so much HP. If we can just move one turn, we finally managed to get it to go after 71 attempts there against Claire. I probably reset way too much there, but it is a channel member pick, and I could see the strategy, how it could work, which is why I was resetting there, because every status move in Gen 2, when used by the game's AI, has a 25% chance to miss just off the bat. So a move like Thunder Wave goes from being 100% accurate to being 75% accurate, but then it also takes into account accuracy drops. And in this case, when we start using Mudslap 3 times, that Thunder Wave is going to hit less than half the time, and we can have a paralyzed Cure Berry to just be a safety net when we do get hit by Thunder Wave sometimes there. And then as long as we get enough misses in a row, we can actually manage to set up the rollout. And then it just comes down to what Kingdra does. If it goes for the Smokescreen, we have a decent chance of still hitting 2 turns in a row. If it doesn't go for Smokescreen, we can get the KO in 2 turns and still have at least decent-ish health left over for the last 2 Dragonairs. So I don't think it's perfect, but it's definitely possible there with this Cyandquil. And here we're very close to leveling up. We're just going to knock out this next Dragonair in the Dragon's Den, and we can level up and learn Flamethrower. And I'm just going to relearn this move over Mudslap, because once we get to the league, Mudslap's not really going to be a useful move for us. There are just lots of ways for the league to get around the accuracy strats, and a lot of the best Pokemon in the league are flying types, so they can't even be affected by that move. So it just makes sense to go ahead and forget it now. But we did manage to use it to get through this section at least. And with that, we're ready to move on. Now, admittedly, I was getting pretty close to dropping rare candies there to see if they would help us get a better range, because within a few levels, I would expect that we might be able to reach the point of having a one-hit KO on the Kingdra after we get everything set up. And frankly, we might have been better going back to our original strategy of Defense Curl Rollout at that point. But in the end, I managed to get the luck to get through without the rare candies, so I'll take it, and we can simply move on in the game. So ultimately, while Flamerai's little flame isn't looking the greatest here, it has managed to get to Rival 5. We can just throw on a quick heal here and get into this fight. Let's see if we can manage to just stunt on the rival and get to the league with this Pokemon. So first up here on the Rivals Sneasel, I'm going to start setting up Rollout right here. Since this will probably be our best move against the Feraligatr, we get a 2-hit KO after we miss one time there, and then a critical hit didn't do that much on the Feraligatr. It's going to be a 3-hitter from there. We'd probably get a better range if we hadn't gotten that miss on the Sneasel though, and here Golbat just gets wrecked, so that's perfectly fine. Now on Haunter, I will go Flamethrower, getting the 1-hit KO. Kadabra comes out, we can go Return, and that means that we get to the Magneton, so even with a little bit of bad luck, we still managed to get through the rival. He just doesn't stand a chance. There's a reason why in some of these he doesn't even have a proper name, and the rest of the time he's named RBY Pokemon Challenges, which just guarantees that you're going to win 100% of the time there, it seems. So with that, Cyandquil, it's not pretty. It does have a strategy that gets it to the league when it's a member pick, and it started the game with tons of OP moves already. In the end, it worked out, so we'll take it. Flamerai, I want to give you a massive thank you. Already 7 months here as a channel member supporting our Cyandquil. I cannot thank you enough. And while that was a massive grind, we have made it to the league. So that gives me a little bit of faith that maybe we can put in a little bit more work here. And with rare candies, at least, we might be able to find a way through. Let's test it out and see, because by the time we get to Lance, Defense Girl rollout strats with the Sunny Day might be enough to get the job done. That's at least what I'm conceptualizing right now, but we'll see. Anyway, that does it for this one. Thank you very much, Flamerai. Let's get back to see how our progress has been so far. So just like that, we can see that we've managed to get through with all of our challengers so far. 7 Pokemon up there in that pass column, including an awful lot of fire types. We've also done an excellent job with our member picks up to this point, and we've got 4 legit challengers remaining, the water types. But before I get into those, I'm going to take on a challenge from a brand new channel member who requested an Onix, a Pokemon that failed all the way back on Falconer, to see if it's possible to get it to this point in the game. In order to do so, we're going to start off by giving it its egg moves Flail and Rock Slide to see if those are enough to get through to this point. But I'm pretty sure the Bayleaf team is going to be a massive wall for this Pokemon. We may have to think of something else, but let's test it out and see if it's possible or not. So here we will pick up our Onix in the Totodile Ball, so we will be going up against that Bayleaf team. We're going to have to see if new channel member Yokai0711 can manage to get through with the Undersnake, named because it's basically an underdog Pokemon, but it's not a dog, it's a snake, you know, get it? And with that, we're going to be ready to get into this one. Now, if you'll recall, the problem with the original Onix was that it only knows Tackle and Screech at the start of the game. And because Falconer spams so much Mud Slap in this section, you can get to Falconer, but it's basically impossible to beat him. However, Rock Slide should answer that problem, which is why that's the first move that we're going to slap on. And on top of that, we're going to get Flail, which is an egg move and technically would allow us to deal extra damage if we got on very low health. The other big problem with this Pokemon, of course, though, is that it doesn't have great attacking stats. Its defense and speed are at least kind of decent, but attack, special attack, and special defense are all pretty bad, and the HP isn't anything to write home about either, so it doesn't even really get to make use of that high defense stat that it has. So in a lot of cases, this Pokemon just gets wrecked. We're gonna have to see if it's possible to get through or not. So just like that, I will add on Rock Slide and Flail, and let's get straight to Falconer to see how he goes with this updated moveset. Now, it's worth noting that Onix is a legit Pokemon in this section of the game against Falconer, because there is an in-game trade where you can trade a Bellsprout for an Onix. And it was one of the first strategies that I ever remember trying in Pokemon Silver back in the day, and finding that Onix was basically not able to beat Falconer, even though he was a flying type gym leader. I found it just completely bizarre. It threw me off my game coming from Gen 1, and the issue is just that you only get to level 8 here on minimum battles with Onix, and it wouldn't know any rock type moves at this point. It doesn't learn Rock Throw until level 14, so in that case, you're kind of stuck with Tackle and Screech here normally, but here with Rock Slide, we might just be able to get a victory against Falconer. Let's test this out and see. So Falconer attempt number 1, he leads off with the Pidgey, which Fortunately, we're actually faster than, so we can use Rock Slide to get an easy one-hit KO on that Pokemon. Pidgeotto comes out and does outspeed. It goes Mud Slap turn 1. We miss the Rock Slide. We miss again. Finally, we manage to hit, and we do get a one-hit KO. So we get through and get to level 9, but that was not pretty with the inaccuracy of Rock Slide due to Mud Slap. At least now we do get access to Mud Slap ourselves as a same type move, and we have a super effective typing against Bugsy, so we should be able to get through the next gym pretty easily. But let's test it out and just see if there's any walls along the way. But really, I think if there's going to be a wall, it's going to be that Rival 2 fight with his Bayleaf, where I'm not sure we're going to be fast enough to outspeed, and we might just end up getting wrecked. Still, the only way to know for sure is to test it. So let's get to Azalea Town, take on these rockets, get into the gym first, and then hopefully be able to beat the rival. So here as we get to the Bugsy fight, we are at level 13, and we do have kind of decent speed here. 28 speed to go together with 23 attack and 51 defense. I think this is going to be perfectly fine, especially with the rock type move Rock Slide. Let's just destroy Bugsy and then test to see if we can actually beat the rival. So Bugsy attempt number 1 right here. We're going to go for Rock Slide. It's going to be a 2-hit KO on the first Metapod. We missed the second Rock Slide, but that's perfectly fine. Tackle does nothing here. Scyther comes out next, and it is 4 times weak to Rock Slide, so it's an easy 1-hit KO getting us to level 14. We could learn Rock Throw via level up. I'm going to currently skip the move because I don't think it's going to help us that much. Rock Slide's already stronger, and I think we want Tackle until we get on low health to use Flail, so I think we're going to just stick with this for now. That brings out the Kakuna, which we can simply Rock Slide, but it's again not a one-hit KO. That not great attack stat of this Pokemon is showing its head again here as we have to tackle that Pokemon down. We do get to level 15 though, so this is as strong as we get before we get to the rival, and we just have to see if rival number 2 is gonna be possible or not. I think if we can find a way through the Bayleaf, we'll be perfectly fine for everything else. We might need to go for some Mud Slap strats here, but let's test this out and just see. So Rival 2 attempt number 1, he leads off with the Ghastly. We have Rock Slide for this Pokemon. We do not get a one-hitter, but we do get a flinch. So we managed to knock that Pokemon out. Bayleaf is out next, and we are in fact faster than the Bayleaf considering we're on max DVs here. So if we can get a flinch, we might have a chance here. Let's see what Rock Slide does. It did 14 damage, meaning that this would be a 4-hit KO. We do get a flinch turn 1, then it goes Razor Leaf, and a super effective Razor Leaf simply knocks me out. So that makes me think that the strategy is going to have to be to use Mud Slap here in order to try to reduce the accuracy of that Bayleaf. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to replace Tackle with Mud Slap and hopefully be able to use that move to lower accuracy, maybe then go for Screech and Rock Slide it down from there. So here against the Ghastly, since we know it's a 2-hitter anyway, let's Mud Slap turn 1. It goes Spite, which is perfectly fine. We'll just Rock Slide it down after that. That brings out the Bayleaf, where we can go Mud Slap first, and we're hoping for the Razor Leaf misses here. We're going to need a little bit of luck to get this to go, I think. Of course, the entire issue here is that we just don't have any stronger moves to use in this fight, and we have no way to reduce the damage from Razor Leaf, so this is honestly the best that we've got outside of going for some sort of like curse strat here. And here, after a bunch of attempts, I can just basically say this isn't gonna work. The amount of luck that we would need in order to get all the misses from that Bayleaf is basically impossible. Now, one thing to try is going in on very low health into this fight to see if maybe, just maybe, we can manage to use Flail in order to knock the opponent out. And to do this to the maximum, I'm going to go in with 1 HP, just hoping that I can find a way through this first Ghastly with Mud Slap, hoping that it just misses Lick turn 1. We may have to reset for this a few times, but let's just see if we can get it to go. So now when we get to the Bayleaf, we can go with Flail. This is the maximum power it could ever possibly have, and it does half. So a critical hit might be enough to actually get the one-hit KO here. So that's what I'm going to try to get. Keep in mind that Razor Leaf also has a 5% chance to miss on any given turn, so that may be enough to actually allow us to get a victory. Of course, getting a miss from Razor Leaf is just slightly more luck-based than resetting for a critical hit, and I think if we get to the final Zubat, that will just one-shot with Rock Slide, so I think this could be a legit strategy. This time we get the miss from Razor Leaf, and that does let us knock Bayleaf out. We get to level 16 as the Zubat comes out. We hit the Rock Slide, and that finally gets us the victory. So it's not pretty to get through that fight. It takes a ton of time, but in the end, Onix can get it done, but you've got to rely on Flail strats in order to get it done, and you're really banking on that Razor Leaf miss to get the victory there. Still, Yokai is moving on. Now we should have an advantage in this section as we go up against Whitney, so let's just see if we can manage an easy victory on her at least. We do get Headbutt, which is an upgrade on Tackle, and we can even learn Dig in this section if we want to, so there are some options available to us to try to get through this part of the game. So I figure we may as well just get into the gym with what we've got right now. Let's just see if it works. If it doesn't, then we'll think about Dig strats and things like that to try to get through this. But first things first, we're just going to take on Scary Carry, where I think we can just go for the Rock Slides here. It looks like a 3-hit KO on this Pokemon, but we do manage to get through, and that should put us in position to be able to take on Whitney and hopefully get a nice easy victory as long as she doesn't metronome anything crazy strong against us. Let's get into this and find out though. So first up, we are faster than the Clefairy here. I tried to go Screech, it goes Dig against me, and we have nothing to hit it with while it's underground. Fortunately, it didn't do very much damage, and a critical hit Rock Slide after the Screech does one-shot there, getting us to level 18. I'm going to Screech against the Miltank as it attracts me. I think we go for some Mud Slaps now, hopefully just getting this Pokemon to not be able to hit very much. We can see that we're doing pretty decent damage, and I think at this point we can go into Flail strats even. She's gonna Milk Drink, but if we can just hit Flail enough times, we should be able to win. Sure enough, we do. Take Whitney down on the first attempt. With that, we get a badge boost in speed, and we're ready to move on to the Morty section. We'll have to see how it goes, but as long as we've got access to Dig, we should be pretty good in this section, except for the Rival 3 fight. That's what I'm nervous about. We'll just have to see how that one actually goes. Still, I'm going to get Dig because I think it's highly likely that I'll need that move at some point here, and it at least gives us another strategy for getting through some of these Pokemon. I really wish that we could learn the move Rollout, of course, because I think that would give us a really obvious strategy for getting through this section, but unfortunately, it's just not available to us. So I do think we're going to end up taking all of the available battles in this section to try to get through rival number 3. So I'm going to start off by taking on the Kimono Girls in the order of the ones that aren't very effective against me, and then we'll see how we can do after going to the lighthouse, etc. Just getting as many levels as possible before we take on that rival battle. Now here via level up, we can learn Harden, but I think I'm going to skip this move. We've already got massive defense, so it's just hard to see a situation where we're really going to get a huge advantage from it. I think Screech is more important in order to lower the opponent's defense so that we can actually deal decent damage. So that's the way I'm going to go here. It might be a mistake. Tell me in the comments if you think so. That's what I'm going to test right here. So with the lighthouse out of the way, we've made it to rival 3. Let's test if we can get through this fight or not. The Bayleaf is probably going to be a massive wall again, but we'll just have to see. So first up, we've got the Haunter right here. We can go for Rock Slide. We are faster. Unfortunately, we get licked and paralyzed. Still, we managed to knock it out after that. We get Cursed. Bayleaf comes out and is slower than us, so we could get flinches here, whether through Rock Slide or through something like Headbutt, though Rock Slide is obviously the stronger play. We can just see, though, that we didn't deal nearly enough damage. It looks like it's probably another 3 or 4 hit KO, so we're probably not getting through very easily, at least in this one. In fact, Rock Slide doesn't even one-shot there against the Haunter. We do get a nice flinch here against the Bayleaf at least, but we would need 2 flinches at least to get through this fight. This time we get the Razor Leaf miss, but unfortunately it hits the next one, and that's always going to one-shot. And after resetting for quite a bit, it's pretty clear that we're not getting through, at least as we are right now, but it does open up the possibility that maybe a Flail strat is what's required here to get through the Bayleaf. So I'm going to test it out to see. So here against the Bayleaf, let's just see what Flail does when we're on minimum HP. Yet again, we would need a critical hit to get through there, but it might be a case where we could get one flinch and then a crit in order to get the victory. So I'm going to go Rock Slide first, hoping for a flinch on this Pokemon. If we don't get it, then we'll simply have to reset. Also, we could get the Razor Leaf Miss that could allow us to get through. It's also worth noting that the Haunter is not a one-hit KO with the Rock Slide, so we have to flinch there as well if we're going to get through this. We could try going Dig strats in order to try to get a one-hit KO on that Haunter. So that's what I'm going to try to do right here. I'm going to slap on Dig, and I'm going to try this move over Screech. In fact, I'm going to keep all my damage dealing moves because we might need the Mud Slap later on for all I know. So I guess Screech is the one that has to go. So here, let's see if Dig can just one-hit KO against the Haunter. It does not. It still is a two-hit KO with that move. And this is really the issue of Onix. It just has such terrible attack that it really doesn't get through these fights very well. Now, it could have been a bad roll or something, so I will try a few more times with Dig just to see. Looks like we can get a one-hit KO range there on the first Haunter, so we're just going to have to reset for good rolls plus getting the flinch here in order to get through, it looks like. This time we do get the flinch on the Bayleaf though. Let's see if we can get the Flail range. We do. That brings out the Magnemite, which of course will go down to a Dig, nice and easy. And then we're going to have to hit a Rock Slide on this Zubat. Once we get it though, we do manage to get through. It's brutally hard to get through Rival 3 with this Pokemon, but it does turn out to ultimately be possible. And now with Dig, I think we're perfectly fine to go into Morty's gym. So let's just get in there, knock all these Pokemon out with our ground type moves. And then we're going to have to move on to another gauntlet that is Chuck, Jasmine, and Pryce. So this could be really, really tough. Now, of course, we know that the Mint Berry is the best way to go into the Morty fight, so let's just go in with that and Dig. Hopefully get a really easy victory right here before we have to go into the next part that's going to be much harder. So Morty attempt number 1, we're just going to go Dig on the first Ghastly here. We get a nice easy one-hit KO. We'll go Dig against the Haunter, again trying to keep it from using Curse, and that gets a one-hitter. Haunter number 2 comes out. That's perfectly fine. We'll just knock that Pokemon out, and that brings out the final Gengar, which we're not faster than, but we have the Mint Berry, so it can go for Hypnosis. We'll just wake up, use Dig, and let's see what that does. It's going to be a 2-hit KO, but it just misses the next Hypnosis, so we get the victory, getting to level 27. We could learn Rage via level up, but while it would be possible to start building that up on the next rival fight, I don't think that it's going to end up being good enough. So I'm going to skip that move because, again, I think we'll just get much better things. If we really need a normal type move, something like Headbutt or Return makes a lot more sense here. But now with this Pokemon, I think the only logical play is to go to the Rocket Hideout, get as many levels as we possibly can before we try to take on anything else, because we know this is going to be brutal no matter how we do it. So let's just see how it actually turns out. Now, of course, we get to the end of the Rocket Hideout perfectly fine, but I'm worried about the Gloom on this final trainer. Let's see how this fight actually goes. First up, on the Arbok, I think this is pretty simple. Let's go for Dig right here, since that's our strongest available move. It's still a 2-hit KO here, and Bite did significant damage, but we do knock it out. That brings out the Gloom, where I'm going to go for Rock Slide here. We get a flinch, but then Absorb does massive damage to us. Still, the flinch was enough to get through and get us to level 30. Murkrow, we can just go Rock Slide and get an easy one-hit KO victory. So we do manage to get through there. It's still kind of close. We can see anytime there's a super effective special move, we're just getting wrecked. That makes me think we're not going to do very well against Pryce or against Chuck. We might have to take on Jasmine first in this one to have any chance of progressing. Still, Rock Slide is super effective against some of the Pokemon here inside of Pryce's gym, and we're only 2 times weak to Ice. So I'll at least test it just to see, but I'm not confident coming into this. So Pryce attempt number 1 right here. Let's go Rock Slide on the first seal. It looks like a 2-hit KO. Aurora Beam lowers our attack stat, and now we're not even getting a 2-hitter on this first Pokemon. I think that's all she wrote for this first attempt. The Piloswine comes out and takes like no damage thanks to the fact that our Rock Slide is only neutrally effective here, and Blizzard ends us. So yeah, clearly it doesn't look like it's going to work. I'll give it a couple more attempts, but then I think we have to go down maybe to Chucky Boy's gym to fight against the randos. And here, if we can get the Piloswine without an attack drop, we at least did better damage, and it only has a few PP in Blizzard. So I might want to dig here to waste PP, hopefully. Of course, if he lands a single hit, we will lose, but maybe that's the strategy here. So here against the Piloswine, I'm going to Mud Slap first, hoping to get the Blizzard miss. When I don't get it, then I'm just going to have to reset. But I think Mud Slap and then try to go for Dig is the best strategy here. So he misses the first one. Now we can dig. He misses again. We dig again. And if he doesn't hit here, he would be out of Blizzards. Unfortunately, he did manage to hit the last Blizzard, so we're going to have to reset. This time, Piloswine does use all of its available Blizzards. So now we can go into the Rock Slide, get a nice flinch. We get him to use the Hyper Potion, and he's going Fury Attack against us rather than going Icy Wind. I wonder what his logic is for that. Still, we managed to get through that Pokemon. That brings out Dugong. We hit the Rock Slide. It hits Aurora Beam and takes us to low health, and we're out of Rock Slide PP. Let's see if Flail gets the job done. It does. So we actually get through Pryce with our Onix and get to level 31. That is nuts. Oh, Pryce. He always gives you some way to win, and clearly using the Mud Slaps on the Piloswine is the way to go there. Now I think we go back and fight against randos inside of Chucky Boy's gym. I don't think we can beat Chuck at this point, at least not without crazy luck. But after that, I do think we can try Jasmine. At least the 2 Magnemites are completely free there. It's just a question of the Steelix. Obviously, it has more defense than we've got and more attack than we've got. It's the superior Pokemon to Onix in every way, except maybe when it comes to going up against fire types. That's basically it. The rest of the time, I think I'd much rather have a Steelix than this Onix right here, but who knows? We may still be able to find a way through. Still, I'm going to try to take on the traders in Chuck's gym first. Since we have really high defense, we shouldn't take too much damage from their physical attacks. Maybe we can just whittle them down. So here against the Black Belt Bros, I will go for Dig against the first Hitmonlee as it misses his jump kick. Didn't do quite half damage there, so I think this is going to be perfectly fine. We can even go Flail at this point, and that will take us to the second Black Belt. Let's see what Flail does against this Hitmonchan. Slightly less than half, and then Ice Punch takes me down. So we're going to have to reset here a few times, I think. But I think ultimately this will be possible. I think we're wanting to get to fairly low health here, though, so that we can get the Flail and maybe deal better damage to the Hitmonchan. It seems like it's always going Ice Punch there because it has the range to actually knock me out, which is how I think the AI actually works on these. They go for the KO whenever they can, but otherwise they're just random. Here we're going to the Hitmonchan with better HP though, so I think I can go for Dig. It still goes Ice Punch against me, interestingly, but we do manage to knock it out in a couple of digs, so we get the victory, and now we can move on in the gym. So here we did manage to get through all of the randos in the gym, but I'm going to backtrack now to Jasmine and just see if I can manage a victory against her or not. If she's not working, then we'll go back to try Chuck, and if both of them aren't working, then we're going to have to go back to the drawing board because there's not a whole lot of TMs left for us. I mean, we could learn Earthquake. That would be our strongest same type move. Sandstorm strats might be something to go for, but there's really just not a whole lot else. I mean, Curse plus Quick Claw, but that's not going to be very pretty. We're just going to have to see if we have to go that far or not. This one could turn out to be really, really rough. Still, let's get into the Jasmine fight and just see how she goes. First up, she leads off with a Magnemite. We can just go Dig here, and I think we'll get a one-hit KO. Sure enough, we do. That brings out the Steelix next, and this is where I think we go for Mud Slap to lower its accuracy as much as possible. It screeches and goes for Iron Tail and just one-shots me. So we're pretty clearly a 2-hit KO from Iron Tail at this point. We're going to need some crazy accuracy luck to get through. Still, Iron Tail is only 75% accurate. We can see it took me down to 24 HP with a single hit though, so we definitely are going to need this Steelix to miss an awful lot of times. Now I can go for Dig at this point once we get its accuracy all the way down, and we would just need to stall out all of its PP in Iron Tail in order to have a chance to get through this. Still, I think this is more likely than getting through Chuck at this point. With its accuracy all the way down, I will go into Dig again. We can see it's not doing massive damage here, but we are getting the Iron Tail misses this time, so if we can get 1 or 2 more, we should be able to knock out the Steelix. It's all the way down to 2 HP when it takes me out. Obviously, if we can get through the Steelix and we have any PP in the move Dig, we will easily win after that. So we just need to get the luck to get a ton of misses here. She Hyper Potions, and now we can go for Dig, just hoping to get the misses, and it just doesn't work out on that one. This time she's already used her Hyper Potion. We got a couple of critical hits when we finally take our first hit from the Steelix. We just need it to miss us a couple more times. We finally get through that Pokemon, getting to level 33. Now we can Dig on the final Magnemite, and it's a guaranteed KO. So we managed to get through there. It's not pretty yet again, and we're just going to have to hope that we can find a way through Chucky Boy, because that's the only trainer available to us on minimum battles at this point. I think Surf just wrecks us here, so we're really going to have to see if anything is possible or not in this fight. We may even need to go for something like a headbutt strat here. We'll test that out, but for now, I'm going to just get into the fight as I am and see how it goes. So first up, we've got the Primeape. I'm going to just go ahead and go Dig against this Pokemon. We do slightly less than half. It misses Fury Swipes there, and now it hits Fury Swipes, doing basically nothing, and we can just knock that Pokemon out. That brings us to the Poliwrath, where I'm going to go for Dig just to see what kind of damage I do. It goes for Surf. Dig did 22 damage, and we get 1-hit KO'd by the Surf. So pretty clear that that's going to be his strategy, and I'm not sure we're going to be able to do much to overcome that. Like, we can go for Mud Slap here, trying to get the flinch, but that doesn't seem like it's going to deal enough damage. Of course, we can go for Mud Slap to try to get the misses, but I don't think that's going to be very easy to actually pull off in practice. We can see on slightly lower HP how we do with a move like Flail, but it's basically the same as using Rock Slide at that point. I don't think there's a range where we're going to be able to like 2-hit KO and go for a crit or something like that. So outside of that, I mean, what do we have? Max Power Return or Headbutt? That's really it. Obviously, Iron Tail is resisted here, so there's no point learning that move, and otherwise we would have to add on another TM move, something like Earthquake, to try to get an advantage here. So in fact, that's what I'm going to test. I'm going to test Earthquake just to see what it does for us, since it is significantly stronger than Dig in this version of the game. Maybe it gives us a better range here. This is the strongest move we could ever get on this Pokemon. We can see it 2-hit KOs against the Primeape. On the Poliwrath, it's going to be a 3-hitter. So we could throw on a King's Rock here in an attempt to get a flinch. I think that's the only strategy that will work. In fact, let's go even harder here because it doesn't seem to be working. Let's go with Curse and Earthquake, because I just want to see if one Curse will keep us still faster than the Poliwrath, but then allow us to one-shot with a critical hit Earthquake. Let's just test this out to see. So here I'm going to Curse once. That lowers us down to 49 speed though, so that does not seem like it's going to work because we're just going to be too slow to get through the Poliwrath. So in that case, we may need to Curse and then hope for a Quick Claw activation in order to win, and we may have to just go for multiple Curses to get the KO here. Let's test this out and see. So I'm just going to Curse like crazy at the Primeape, hoping that it doesn't get a bunch of crits like this. When it does, of course, we're going to lose, but it could just go for things like Leer and Fury Swipes. It's not guaranteed to use Karate Chop, and it's not guaranteed to get a critical hit either. Let's see if 4 Curses allows us to get through here. So we do need a Quick Claw activation. We don't get it on that one, but that is going to be the basic strategy. This time we hit the Earthquake and we do get the 1-hit KO, but it requires going all the way for Curse, Earthquake, and Quick Claw strats in order to get that one to work. Otherwise, you just don't deal enough damage to actually get through the Poliwrath, and you're guaranteed to be one-hit KO'd every time it hits Surf, and trying to reset there for, like, accuracy luck is not going to happen anytime soon. So this is the best strat that I can come up with, Yokai. Onix just really is not a great Pokemon in this generation, but it has managed to get through to where we are currently in the game. So let's see if it can beat up on a bunch of rockets, maybe use a similar strategy in order to get through Clair, and then we'll just have to see from there. But for now, let's get as many levels as we possibly can. Now, of course, when we get to the Marlboro Man with an Onix, we have a massive advantage because he can't really do anything to us. So we're just going to Earthquake on all of these Pokemon. I'm sure Dig would get us through here just fine as well. But this is basically the best that I think I can come up with this Pokemon. We get to level 37 right there. We can easily get through the Wheezing. It goes for a Smokescreen, but does not matter. Earthquake still manages to hit, and that's going to be enough to get us through that Executive on the first attempt. So a nice little reprieve from the brutal gym section that we were just going through previously. Now we can go into the basement to fight against the rival with his Meganium though, and I'm sure this is going to be tons of fun, but maybe the Quick Claw can activate and give us a victory. Let's get into it and find out. Now, we know that he leads off with the Golbat here, which is perfectly fine. I think this Pokemon's going to let me set up a bunch of curses here. Hopefully, we don't flinch too many times. And hopefully we don't hit ourselves in confusion too much as well. Unfortunately, we do go down on that first attempt. We might have to set up just a couple times and then hope that we can manage to get a one-hit KO range with a crit, and also hope that we don't flinch every single turn. So who knows? This might just turn out to be impossible because of the Golbat. It's a 2-hit KO with Rock Slide itself, which means Meganium's not going to be going down easy here. Sure enough, one hit from Rock Slide unboosted only did 30 damage, so that would be a 4-hit KO, and the Razor Leaf one-shots us, so we lose. So I think we need to set up all the curses here. We're just going to have to get really lucky to not get KO'd here by this Golbat. Still, maybe just 2 curses plus a critical hit could get the job done. This is going to be pretty rough though. We can of course get a flinch though, and that gives us another possibility of getting through this. Since we could technically get 2 Quick Claw activations in a row, it's probably not very likely, but still not impossible. We've seen it happen before. Still, in that case, maybe it's better to just go for the flinch here and try to get a victory that way. I'm honestly just not sure what we can do against this Meganium. Using even 1 curse means that we are slower than Meganium, and that's really the issue here. We can't curse because we're too slow. We can't set up all the curses because of the Golbat using Bite over and over again and flinching us. Obviously, Earthquake does even less than the Rock Slide does. Flail's also not doing that much damage here, so I'm just not sure what we can actually do. Now, I believe in later gen, Sandstorm powers up Rock-type moves, but here in this gen, it's just basically doing chip damage. Still, it does a little bit here, so maybe, just maybe, we can use it to try to get a range of some sort. It just didn't do anything for us on that attempt. So at this point, I think we can only go for crazy flinch strats to try to get through. Nothing else seems to really work. I've tested a bunch of ideas here. I've just been resetting for a long time, so I think we're just trying to flinch the Meganium over and over again. Now, one thing that I do want to check out is how this Pokemon would do if we did give it Rollout, because in Gen 4, it can actually learn Rollout as an egg move. And if you could somehow have that move here, I actually think it might solve a lot of our problems, because Rollout would allow us to build up damage in advance and hopefully have a stronger move by the time we got to the Meganium. Let's test this out and see. So here, I'm just going to replace Flail with Rollout for this test. Let's see if that allows us to get through the rival. Because as far as I can tell, there's just nothing else to do. I've been resetting for an awful long time with no progress made here. Hidden Power, even if you did like Hidden Power Ice or something, it's not going to be that strong with this low special attack stat. So I just don't think that that would get us through either. So I think this is the only thing left to really test, just kind of for fun, to see if it works or not. Here we can start setting up the Rollout on the Golbat. That will get us to Meganium. We missed the Rollout there, so we don't get to see what it would have done. So So we're going to have to reset till we get a run where it actually hits. Of course, it should be a little bit stronger when it gets to the Meganium than the move Rock Slide. But the bigger thing is that if the Meganium ever misses with its Razor Leaf, we would then have a path to victory pretty easily by hitting it on the next turn. So this kind of effectively gives us about a 5% chance of getting through, assuming that we don't get any misses. So it's slightly less than that when you consider that we can be confused by the Golbat and we can obviously get misses with Rollout ourselves. But we can also get the King's Rock to activate with this move, which gives us a little extra chance to get through with this setup. This time we get the flinch thanks to the King's Rock, so we get through the Meganium getting to level 38. That brings out Magnemite, which just gets wrecked. Sneasel, we can go Rock Slide on, as Feint Attack will do basically nothing. And on the Haunter, we have Earthquake. So we do manage to get through with the Rollout in far fewer attempts than everything else that I was testing here. So that seems to be the strategy that actually works for this Pokemon. With that out of the way, we can now get through the rest of these randos, hopefully, and gain a bunch of levels. We have deviated pretty far from the original version of Onix at this point, though. I find it just shocking that this Pokemon does not learn Rollout in this generation, that they waited till Gen 4 to make it possible for this Pokemon to learn the move when it's so ubiquitous in this generation. Like, we've got Jigglypuffs using Rollout, and yet for some reason Onix can't. It really makes no sense to me. If you have an idea why Onix didn't get Rollout in this generation, drop it in the comments down below, because I think it's a pretty healthy discussion about the devs really hating this Pokemon. Still, with that done, we're now ready to make our way up to the top of the radio tower. Let's just see if we can get the victories here that we need so that we can hopefully move on nicely in the game. I'm going to curse a little bit because of how terrible this Pokemon has been so far, and I really wanted to set up Rollout here. Let's see if we can knock out Vileplume. We can, but we're on low health as we get to Murkrow, so we just get wrecked. We're going to need better luck than that. It looks like one curse is what we need here, though. Still, we can try to go for Earthquake as well. Absorb just does massive damage, and we would need a flinch to get through this one, it looks like. So it seems to me that setting up at least one curse is the best way to go. That allows us to knock out the Vileplume, and now we get Nightshaded by the final Murkrow. We're going to need to make sure we're on max health as we go into this one. And here we're out of Nightshade range, so we do manage to knock out the Murkrow. But again, just really not looking great as we get to the final fight here in this section of the radio tower. Still, the final trainer has 3 Pokemon weak to ground, so we should have an easy time. Let's see how it actually goes. Against the Houndour, we'll just go for Earthquake. Coughing also gets Earthquake. That brings us to Houndoom. Earthquake here is a one-hit KO, so we finally get an easy win. We can get out of here, and now it's time for the incredibly brutal fight that will be Clair. We're probably getting one-hit KO'd by the first Dragonair. That is my guess. We're possibly going to be going for more Rollout flinch strats here in order to have a chance to get through, and I'm not sure it's going to be possible even then. So we do manage to get through all the randos in the gym and make our way to Clair. This one's going to be rough, though. Let's test out some ranges and see, but we probably are just getting one-shot by Surf at the beginning, if I had to guess, and we might not have a one-hit KO range no matter what we do, so let's just find out. Dragonair number 1 comes out. We can go for Earthquake right here, and we can see it's a 2-hit KO, and we just get wrecked. So let's see if we can get some sort of Rollout with a flinch thanks to the King's Rock, because that might be all that we can really go for. I think we would need multiple flinches here to even have a shot, but maybe once it's fully built up, we would be able to get through. Otherwise, an Earthquake critical hit will get the job done, but it might be that a Rock Slide critical hit gets the job done too, and Rock Slide will have more of a chance to flinch here. So we do manage to get to level 44 as we get to the second Dragonair. This one knows Ice Beam, which is only 2 times super effective. Let's just see if we can get any sort of setup off here, like a curse. as it goes Ice Beam against me. We do survive that move. Unfortunately, we got wrecked after that because we had a speed drop on from the curse that put us in a speed tie there. So it looks like we're going for flinches with Rock Slide to try to get through this one, with the King's Rock, of course, adding on to that. If we can get the flinch, then we can Earthquake the Dragonairs down from there. At least Ice Beam does not one-shot us though, so we can knock that Pokemon out. Kingdra comes out next, and it's fast enough that if we had even one curse on, we would be slower than this Pokemon. We get a nice critical hit here, but we did not get a flinch, and we can see if that's a crit doing about half, this would be a 4-hit KO with the Rock Slide there. So we're going to need a lot of luck here because I think Surf from the Kingdra is yet again just guaranteed to one-shot us. And there's not a whole lot else that I think we can do. We could try to set up Rollout on that second Dragonair since we could get flinches thanks to the King's Rock, and we could just survive a hit. But I think that's basically all we have available to us. So let's just test it and see. Since we can survive one hit, we can't survive 2 hits though, so we're going to have to get a flinch one of those turns in order to have a chance of getting through with the Rollout strat. This time we get 2 flinches on the second Dragonair as we set up Rollout. That brings out Kingdra. We hit the Rollout and get a 1-hit KO there, and the final Dragonite does get knocked out by Rollout. So if Onix learned Rollout, it's not pretty, but with the King's Rock getting flinches, you could technically get through Clair on minimum battles. Would it be worth it to do so? Probably not. You'd probably just want to go grind a million levels with this Pokemon. You can see we're up to 246 resets in the time that I've been working on this one, but it is technically possible to get here with this moveset, which is, again, not a legal Gen 2 moveset. You cannot get Rollout on this Pokemon in Gen 2. It is not until Gen 4 that you could get an Onix that knew the move Rollout. Still, if we come back in Heart Gold, Soul Silver, maybe we'll run that Pokemon one of these days and see a legit Onix with the move. But for now, we are going to make it to rival number 5. Let's just get to the doorstep of the league with this one. We can't give up now. We've come too far, Yokai, to give up right here with this Onix. It's also worth noting that while we don't learn Dragon Breath in this generation, it does learn Dragon Breath in later generations. So technically we could try to go for that against Lance, though our rock type moves will be super effective there. So we might actually have a chance if we get to the final trainer in the league to actually get a victory. Not sure how much further we'll go after that, but hey, we'll just have to test it out and see. Now you might also be asking, aren't there a bunch of rare candies available in this section? Couldn't you have dropped those? And the answer is absolutely yes, but I didn't want to, because if we're gonna get this Pokemon through any part of the league here, we're definitely gonna need the rare candies as we go forward. And here as we make it to Rival 5, this is the point where of course we could legitimately learn Earthquake. So only Rollout is an illegal move on our moveset at this point, but hey, that's perfectly fine. Let's get into this final battle against the rival and just see if we can beat Rival 5 to finish this one out strong for the Undersnake. Let's go. He's gonna lead off with Sneasel. I think this is a perfect opportunity to set up a couple of curses, though who knows, we might not want curse here. I'll go for the Rollout after that. Meganium comes out and just wrecks me. Yeah, I don't think I want curse here. I think I want to go straight for the Rollout. Let's see if we can get it. It's gonna 2-hit KO on the Sneasel. On the Meganium, a critical hit does not one-shot there. We would again need a flinch on the Meganium with the King's Rock to get through this one. So we're just hoping for a flinch or a Razor Leaf miss to give us a chance of getting through. This time we get the flinch, so we do knock that one out. Kadabra comes out and gets wrecked. That brings out Haunter. We can go Earthquake right here. Magneton also gets Earthquaked, and Golbat, I misclicked and went for Earthquake. We want to go Rock Slide here, of course, and that will get the victory. So after nearly 2 hours, I have managed to get the Onix to this point in the game. It is brutal, Yokai. Brutal. Why did you do this? But I cannot thank you enough for joining the channel membership. And hey, even if it's a tough Pokemon to get through, I give it my best every single time. So Yokai 0711 0711 has managed to get the Undersnake through to this point. We'll see how much further it goes. We do have rare candies in the bag, 8 technically available in this section, and we're gonna see if we can get through Lancey Boy at least with this one. Let's do it. I'm here. We're grinding. Anyway, thank you for your support. And yeah, if somebody else wants to give me a brutal challenge like this, consider joining that channel membership down below. But with that being done, we have gotten 4 channel member picks through this section, and it's time to hopefully get to something that is far less of a challenge. Let's get into our water types, starting with Blastoise and Feraligatr. Let's see how they do. We'll step down to the mid stages, assuming they get through, which I think they will. And then finally, we'll have our member pick Squirtle to round this one out. So I'm going to lead off with the Feraligatr in this one. We're coming in with a moveset of Surf, Fury Cutter, Rage, and Bite. Fury Cutter I think is useful here because it is going to be good against the Meganium if we can manage to get it built up. Obviously Surf and Bite have some usefulness. Rage may fall off eventually. We'll just have to see. But for now, let's make our way through all the random rockets where I think Surf is going to get us through just fine. Now here via level up, we get to learn Slash, which I'm going to learn over Rage since it does have the ability to get a high critical hit chance and it's much stronger than Rage. Rage would have to hit multiple times to be stronger than the Slash. I think this is the way to go, but let's just see how it actually works out. And here we can take on the Marlboro Man, where I think the strategy is pretty simple. Just go Surf on the Coughing. It's an easy one-hit KO. So the only Pokemon that might have a chance of surviving here is gonna be the Wheezing. But even then, it's probably just a simple 2-hitter. Let's check it out and see. We, in fact, nearly one-hit KO there. We just get a Sludge, which means basically nothing. And that means that we're going to get through this fight nice and easy. So you can definitely put out the Marlboro Man by just dousing him in water. And we get to level 39 right here. We're ready to now go take on our rival in the basement. I think in this one, we're going to have to try to build up the Fury Cutter before we get to the Meganium, hoping that we can use Fury Cutter to knock that Pokemon out. Otherwise, Ice Punch strats are available as well as a pretty reasonable way to try to get through this one. So let's just check it out and see. First up, I'm going to try to go for the Fury Cutters here against the Golbat. Obviously, this move's going to do like next to nothing against this Pokemon. And I didn't come in healed, so we're going to lose this first attempt because I didn't recover HP. Let's rectify that mistake and try this one again with the Fury Cutters just to see if we can manage to build it up enough to maybe be able to get through this one and then have a fully built up Fury Cutter for the Meganium when it does come out. We can see the move is building up pretty nicely here, so we do manage to take Golbat down. That brings out the Magnemite, which we just one-shot with Fury Cutter. Now the Meganium is a one-hit KO as well. Let's just stick with it on Haunter. It's going to be a 2-hitter. It goes Shadow Ball here, but that's perfectly fine. We just knocked that one out, and now the Sneasel can get Fury Cuttered, and we win. So turns out that Fury Cutter is more than enough to get Feraligatr through that fight. For the Croconaw, who knows, we might end up going for like an Ice Punch strat there in order to get through. Blastoise might also need to go like Ice Punch there because I don't think it's going to have anything better. Still, Fury Cutter gets the job done, so now we can get through the rest of these randos and hopefully make our way quickly to the final executive. And sure enough, we make it to the final executive with no issues, so let's just see how he goes here. He's going to lead off with the Houndour, which I'm just going to go for the Surf against, of course, getting an easy one-hit KO. That will bring out Coughing next. We'll just stick with Surf. Again, it's an easy one-hitter, and that brings out Houndoom, which we can easily knock out with Surf, getting a victory and getting the level 44. Now with that done, I think we're going to replace Bite with Ice Punch in order to get through Clair. I think that's going to be our best play here. We could go with Never Melt Ice if we really need to, but I'm just going to test this out and see if it's enough to actually get me a victory. Obviously, Ice Punch will be neutrally effective against the Kingdra. We might end up going for Slash there instead. I'm not sure, but I just honestly don't think that Bite is a great move on this Pokemon. I think we're much better off with Headbutt anyway. So I think we can forget Bite to learn Ice Punch here, and that's going to be a perfectly reasonable strategy for this battle. Now against Paul, we can see that Slash is more than enough to get through the Dratini's at least. So we should have a pretty easy time getting through the gym, but I've thrown on Ice Punch just to be safe since it will take down 3 of Claire's Pokemon. So let's just get to the Claire fight and see how she goes with Ice Punch strats. I'm not even fully healed, but I may not need to be in this one. So Clair attempt number 1 against the first Dragonair. Let's just put Ice Punch in the top slot. That's an easy 1-hit KO. Dragonair number 2 comes out. We'll just Ice Punch there. Dragonair number 3 gets another Ice Punch. Easy victory. Now we get to the Kingdra, where I'm going to try Slash since it has a high critical hit chance. It's not like Surf is going to do massive damage, nor did Hyper Beam, so we simply get through on the first attempt with no difficulty. Clair was a complete joke for Feraligatr. Kind of nice change of pace there, and we can now make our way to the Dragon's Den, talk to the old guys, and then it's on to Rival 5. So we have made it to Rival 5. Let's just see how he goes with Feraligatr here. He's going to lead off with the Sneasel. I'm going to use this opportunity to set up some Fury Cutter. And let's just see if we can build it up enough to use it on Meganium here. Goes Magneton second. Still, we're doing kind of decentish damage here. We get wrecked by the paralysis though, so that's basically all she wrote for that one. That makes me think we're better off just going all in on attack here and seeing if we can get the victory this way. So let's go Surf on the Sneasel. We'll just stick with Surf on the Magneton here, getting the 1-hit KO. That brings out Meganium. Let's go for the Ice Punch. It does well over half. We get a Reflect, so we're easily going to win right there. Golbat, we can just stick with Ice Punch, especially since Reflect is up. I think this is the best move. That gets us a 2-hit KO as we get to level 47. We could learn Screech. I'm going to skip that move. I don't think I need it. We'll find out if that's the case or not though. Here against the Haunter, I'm simply going Surf, which gets the 1-hit KO. And finally, we've got the Kadabra, which we can Slash and get an easy victory. So just like that, Feraligatr gets through. It was pretty trivial. I mean, most of the time was just the time that it takes to get through this section. And with that being done, we can now move on to Blastoise. And Blastoise comes in knowing Surf, Headbutt, Protect, and Withdraw. Not sure Protect is going to be super useful here. We may end up replacing that with an Ice-type move to get through. But then again, we could replace Headbutt and then relearn it later, so I'm not sure what the best play is here. For now, let's just go beat up on some Rockets nice and easy and make our way through this section of the game. Now, just a quick note for people looking at the resets over there. Obviously, I haven't taken anywhere near that number of resets with Blastoise. Most of those are left over from Onix previously, so don't freak out that we're on 200 resets here. We've made it to the Marlboro Man, and this guy's going to be super easy, I think. Let's just go Surf on all of the Coughings. It's going to be a 1-hit KO on those Pokemon, and let's see if we can even get a 1-hit KO on the Weezing, since we're a little bit more of a special attacker than we were with the previous Feraligatr. It's still a 2-hit KO, but that's perfectly fine. We still managed to get through just fine here, and we're going to completely destroy the remaining Coughings, getting us to level 39 as we get ready to go to the rival fight. So with that, Rival 4 is up next. I really think Ice Punch is the way to go here, so I'm going to put that on over Headbutt and see how that works. So Rival 4 attempt number 1 right here. He leads off with the Golbat. Let's just go for the Ice Punch. It's not quite a one-hitter, but we do get an easy 2-hit KO. The Magnemite comes out next. We can just go Surf on this Pokemon, getting an easy one-hitter. Meganium comes out. We can Ice Punch and a critical hit one-shot, so we simply take it down. Surf on the Haunter does the job, and we can go Surf on the Sneasel. It's going to be a 2-hit KO, but really not too bad to get through that Pokemon and get to level 40. With that done, we're now ready to move on in this section. Surf should basically destroy everything else, and then it's just on to the final Rocket Executive. Now here we can learn Rain Dance via level up, and honestly I think I'm going to learn it over Protect. I just don't see too much need for Protect as we go through, so I think this is the better play. Tell me if you think I'm wrong in the comment section down below, but this is the strategy that I'm going to take for now. Sure enough, we make it to the final executive here. He says, meet your doom. Well, we're just going to go Surf on his Houndour, go Surf on his Coughing, and then go Surf on his Houndoom. And I think it's going to be a 1-hit KO fest. Sure enough, it is. And we get to level 44 right there. We're ready to go to Claire's gym, where we don't have anything great for like the Seadras in the gym, but I don't think it's really going to matter. I think we can just Rain Dance and then knock them out from there. So that's going to be my basic strategy in this next section. And now as we get into Claire's gym, obviously we've got Ice Punch, so I don't expect any difficulties here with any of these trainers. So let's just Ice Punch them down and make our way to Claire herself. And here we get to Claire. I'm going to fight her without even healing because we've got the Ice Punch, and I think it's going to be enough. Let's check in on this fight and see. So Claire attempt number 1, she leads off with the Dragonair. We go Ice Punch, getting a 1-hit KO. Dragonair number 2 gets Ice Punched down. That's going to bring out Dragonair number 3. We can stick with Ice Punch right there. Now against the Kingdra, we could go for a few different strats. I could definitely justify a Rain Dance here as it goes Surf against me. Let's see what my Surf does, though mine is 4 times resisted, so I guess I should just stick with Ice Punch here. Rain Dance is technically just helping Kingdra. It goes for Hyper Beam though, and that should give us a pretty good chance of getting through here. We have taken an accuracy drop, but at the end of the day, it doesn't matter. Even with an inaccurate strategy, we easily managed to get through Claire with our Blastoise. I'll just make sure not to make the same mistake with Wartortle later on. Clearly that Onix section has completely fried my brain at this point, which is why I'm using terrible strategy here, but we still managed to get through nice and easy. We can go talk to the old guys, and then it's time to get to the final rival fight before the league. So sure enough, we make it to the final rival fight. Let's just see how he goes with Blastoise here. We're going to lead off against the Sneasel. I'm going to go Rain Dance right here to power up my moves. Let's go for Surf then to simply knock that Pokemon out. Magneton comes out next. It's raining, so we're just going to knock it out easily with the Surf. Now Meganium, we go Ice Punch, doing over half. It misses a Poison Powder, and that allows us to get an easy victory. Golbat, we can just go with the Ice Punch as well, getting a one-shot. Haunter comes out next. We'll go Surf, and that is a one-hit KO. So finally, Kadabra. Surf is enough to one-shot. So sure enough, we get through the rival just fine with Blastoise. We're standing on the doorstep of the league. This is another fully evolved starter that's perfectly fine to get through to this section. Now we got to check on the mid-stage evolutions, starting with Croconaw. So as we step down in the water types, we're going to get Croconaw, who's coming in with Surf, Bite, Rage, and Fury Cutter. Again, I think we're going Ice Punch over Bite. I think we'll learn Slash over Rage. I think that's going to be my strategy in this section. Let's just see how this actually goes. So here we get to learn Slash over Rage. So I'll just slap that on, and we're ready to make our way through the rest of this early Rocket section. So here we make it to the Marlboro Man with no issues whatsoever. I'm just going to start using Surf on the Coughings, and it still looks like we're getting one-hit KOs even with these mid-stage evolutions. So this should be a pretty easy fight, I think, to get through. We'll have to see when we get to the member pick Squirtle if it's able to one-shot here with the Surf or not. Otherwise, we might have to go for a different strategy with that Pokemon particularly. But generally speaking, the Coughings have a low special defense, so Surf is going to be more than enough here, I think. Sure enough, we managed to get through that fight nice and easy. It's on to the rival in the basement. So rival 4, attempt number 1 right here. He's going to lead off with the Golbat. Let's just go Ice Punch on this Pokemon. It's going to be a 2-hit KO as we get confused. Still, we snap out of confusion and knock that one out. That brings out a Magnemite next. We can go for Surf, getting an easy 1-hit KO. Meganium's out third. We go for the Ice Punch, doing about half. It goes Poison Powder. That gives me a very easy victory on that Pokemon. Now we go Surf on the Haunter in one shot. So Sneasel comes out, and I'm just going to stick with the Surf, I think. It's going to be a 2-hit KO, but it's not doing enough damage with Feint Attack, so we get through on the first attempt and get to level 40. The rival was no challenge for Croconaw, and now we're able to get through all these randos, I think, pretty easily, and that will take us straight to the end of this section. And sure enough, we make it to the final executive with no issues with Croconaw, so let's just go in here and spam some Surf. On the first Houndour, we just easily one-hit KO it. That's going to bring out the Coughing, where we'll just stick with Surf again. That's another one-hitter. And finally, Houndoom, we go Surf, and this Pokemon never stood a chance as we get to level 44. So Mr. Meet Your Doom met his doom against our Croconaw, and now we can make our way to Claire, where I think this one's going to be pretty straightforward, but let's just see how it actually goes. Now, Croconaw does make it to Claire, but on the last trainer before her that also has a Dragonair, we did not one-shot with the Ice Punch. So we might need Never Melt Ice here to get through this one. I'm going to test it out and see if that is the case. So Claire, attempt number 1. Let's try with Never Melt Ice if we can get a one-hitter with Ice Punch. We do not. It's 10 HP away. We did 90 damage there. So So we're actually going to have to whittle these Pokemon down. Of course, one of the Dragonairs knows Thunderbolt, so we are not going to get a victory on this attempt. Now, of course, Blizzard is an available move on the moveset, but we are more of a physical attacker, so it might be worth it to try something physical just to see if we can manage a victory here or not. So I'm going to try giving the Paralyzed Cure Berry and then seeing if we can either go Slash or build up something like Fury Cutter to get through this. So let's just see how we do if we try a Fury Cutter strat here. We may need some Thunder Wave misses in order to get this to work, but we do take down the first Dragonair. We get to the second Dragonair that goes Thunderbolt, but then we do one-shot there. Third Dragonair goes Dragon Breath and gets a critical hit, but we knock it out. And that brings us to Kingdra. Dragon Breath takes us down, but this might actually be possible even with the Fury Cutter here. Let's just see what Slash does. It's going to be a 2-hit KO on these Pokemon. So we can manage to get through there. Maybe with a crit, we can get through the second Dragonair with better HP. We didn't get the crit, but we still got through nice and easy. We crit the third Dragonair, and now it's going Dragon Breath against me. And we do knock it out, but we make it to Kingdra on fairly low health. I don't think we're getting through this one. And sure enough, it Hyper Beams me down. So let's test this just a little bit more because maybe Fury Cutter is the way to go. As I've mentioned before, the Thunder Wave can miss 25% of the time. This time we get a miss. Now we finally get hit by the Thunder Wave, but we still knock out the first Dragonair before we get paralyzed. We can knock out the second Dragonair that knows Thunderbolt, knock out the third Dragonair, and that brings us to the Kingdra with a fully built up Fury Cutter, and we get the one-hit KO. So just like that, Fury Cutter strats are possible. You just need a little bit of luck for things like Dragon Breath against you with that first Dragonair to miss with Thunder Wave, which can happen a decent percentage of the time, and then use the Paralyzed Cure Berry to heal up if she does get paralysis. Turns out to be enough with Croconaw within just a few attempts. So I wouldn't say it was the best range by any means, but we did manage to get through, so let's just see how we do against Rival 5 as we make our way to the league. So Rival 5 time here with Croconaw. Of course, he's going to lead off with Sneasel. Let's just go for Fury Cutter here and start building it up. It's going to try to Fury Cutter me, but we just get an easy 2-hit KO there. Now against the Magneton, though, this move doesn't do enough damage, so I guess we have to surf on that one. Meganium comes out. We can go Ice Punch, doing about half. Razor Leaf does not even do half to us, so we just 2-shot there. Now we can stick with the Ice Punch on the Golbat. It's going to be a 2-hitter as well, but we get through just fine. Now on Haunter, I'm going to try to go Surf as we got confused and cursed. I don't think it's going to matter. Slash just destroys Kadabra. Just like that, we get through super easy. Croconaw is ready to move on to the league. Not even fully evolved. Doesn't matter. You can take that Totodile from New Bark Town. Just evolve it into a Croconaw and it can get all the way to the league on minimum battles. And with that done, it's time to check in on our Wartortle and see if it can match up to what we've just done with Croconaw. Now, Wartortle is here with the same moveset that we had with our Blastoise. I'm just going to replace Protect with Rain Dance here. Eventually, Headbutt will become Ice Punch. That's basically going to be my same strategy here, and we're just going to see how it works out. And sure enough, we make it to Marlboro Man at the start of the radio tower with no issues with Wartortle, so we can just go surf on all these coughings, and we're getting one-hit KOs. So this is going to be pretty easy as long as we don't somehow get knocked out by the wheezing. Here we get a smoke screen, which is kind of bad, but I don't think it's really going to matter at the end. We even get a surf miss against one of the coughings, but that's not enough for him to stop us from getting through on the first attempt and getting to level 39. And with that, we're ready to go fight against the rival in the basement, so let's just slap on the Ice Punch and then hopefully get a nice easy victory here. So Rival 4 attempt number 1 right here. He leads off with the Golbat. I'm just going to go Ice Punch right here. It's going to be a 2-hit KO, but we easily get through. That's going to bring out Magnemite next, which we can just go Surf against, getting an easy victory. Now Meganium, Ice Punch, does about half. We get Poison Powdered, so we just knock it out after that. Haunter, we can go Surf, and this is another 1-hit KO, even with the unevolved form here. And Surf now on the Sneasel. It is faster than us, but we're going to get a pretty easy 2-hit KO, and Feint Attack will not do enough to stop us. So we get through, get to level 40, nice and easy with our Wartortle. So sure enough, we make it to the wannabe Giovanni at the top of the radio tower. He's going to lead off with his Houndour. We just go for the Surf right there. Coughing can also get surfed nice and easy, and that will bring us to the final Houndoom, where we go Surf and get an easy one-hit KO, getting us to level 44. So we can just move on with our Wartortle nice and easy. And now it's time to see how we do in the gym against Clair. Ice Punch should get us through all the randos, so I think we're going straight to the gym leader, even against the random Seadras and whatnot. When we use Rain Dance and Surf, it's a perfectly good strategy, and they don't really have any strong moves against a water type, so it's pretty easy to get through there with the Rain Dance strats. We don't even need a neutrally effective move as we go in. Still, I am going to make sure to get the Never Melt Ice because we may need it here, or we may need to make a complete change to our moveset in order to get through Clair if it's anything like that Croconaw. So let's just pick up everything that we might possibly need as we get into this one. And here with Wartortle, yet again, we're not one-hit KOing against the Dragonair. It's a two-hitter, so we got paralyzed here. So we're going to have to think about Never Melt Ice or some other strategy against Clair. Now, we do get the opportunity to learn Skull Bash here. I'm just not sure it's worth it. Number one, it's not that strong of a move. Number two, it takes a charging turn. I know that from this generation, it starts to raise your defense, if I recall correctly, but I just don't think it's going to be worth it for this Pokemon to learn that move. We already have Withdraw if we want to have higher defense, so it just seems kind of redundant to me. Still, we're going to have to back up here once and get a heal on, and then we might even end up having to go for something like Blizzard with this Pokemon to get through, because we don't have the advantage of having like a higher physical attack stat or something like Fury Cutter to build up to get through here. So if Ice Punch isn't enough, it's probably going to be Blizzard or nothing to get through this. I've mentioned before that we're basically getting to the point where you could afford those Game Corner TMs just by selling the items that you'd pick up on the overworld. So I don't think this is terrible to go for, but I do want to avoid it if I can. So my first try will once again be to try Never Melt Ice on the Wartortle and just see if I can manage to get this to go, but otherwise I think Blizzard's my next best bet. So here, let's just see. Ice Punch does one-shot the first Dragonair with the Never Melt Ice. Second Dragonair also goes down with a crit. Third Dragonair goes down. So the Never Melt Ice is enough to get us to the Kingdra here. I'm just going to stick with Ice Punch on this one. It goes for the Smoke Screen against me, and now Surf doesn't really do that much. It looks like this is a 4-hit KO, but we get the range, so we just win on the first attempt there against Clair. Turns out just a little bit of Never Melt Ice is enough for this Wartortle. I'm worried about Squirtle. I think it's going to have to go Blizzard there in order to get through. Still, we'll just take the easy victory as we move on now to the Dragon's Den. Then we're going to be on to rival number 5. So here we make it to Rival 5. Let's just see how he goes. I'm going to set up Rain Dance first in this one. Against the Sneasel, we can now go Surf, get an easy one-hit KO. That's going to bring out Magneton. In the rain, it's just going to get wrecked by a single Surf as well. Meganium, we can go for the Ice Punch. It does a little over half. We do not take too much damage from the Razor Leaf, so we just knock it out. Golbat, we can go for the Ice Punch as the rain stops here. It's still a 2-hit KO, even with the Never Melt Ice. But we get to level 47 as the Haunter comes out. That's going to be a 1-hit KO with Surf, and that brings out Kadabra. Another Surf might just do it. Sure enough, it does. So we get to the league with Wartortle. That is another one of these starter Pokemon that at least you just get to the mid stage and it's good to go all the way to the league. Minimum battles, no problem. That section was super easy. So just like that, we are here with our final Pokemon for today. It is ShelShockr, the Squirtle, supported by channel member HeiknBacon with Zap Cannon on this Pokemon. We've also got the Rollout, Dig, and Surf, of course. We're going to see how this moveset goes through this section. We may still need to go Ice Punch here, but who knows? Rollout strats might be enough to get us through. We'll just have to test it and see. I don't expect to have a lot of issues with the randos still here, though, since we do have the Stab Surf. So let's just make our way to the top of the first section as we can take on the Marlboro Man. So here against the Marlboro Man, of course, we can just go for Surf, and it's still one-hit KOing against these Coughings. That basically means that we're going to get through this one super easy because the Weezing is the only Pokemon that will survive one hit. It goes Smokescreen, but even then, we just knock it out on the next turn, so no Explosion here, and that I think is enough to get us through this one with no issues. Sure enough, it's an easy victory, and we're down to the basement to take on rival number 4. So here against the rival, of course, he's going to lead off with the Golbat. Let's just go for the Zap Cannon here. It's not a one-hitter, but we obviously get paralysis, so I'm going to start setting up Rollout right here. Magnemite comes out next. This is why Rollout might have been a mistake. Still, I was thinking it would be a good strategy against the Meganium here. Unfortunately, we're going to lose this first attempt. Let's try this one again. So the issue that we have here is that we are slower than the Golbat. So if we get flinched a bunch of times and confused, we can lose. So we're going to try this one again. We really do want to hit Zap Cannon so that we get the speed advantage and then we can knock this one out. After we get that, Magnemite comes out next. We can go Surf here, and that's more than enough to one-shot that Pokemon. Let's Zap Cannon against the Meganium. We miss, of course, and that means Razor Leaf will just take us down. Next attempt, though, we're back to Meganium. So let's hit the Zap Cannon, this time getting the paralysis. It goes Reflect, but I think that's perfectly fine. I'm going to start setting up Rollout here, hoping that we can survive, hoping that it just gets fully paralyzed for a turn or two. Unfortunately, we just didn't get the luck in that one. So at this point, it might just be required to go for the Ice Punch. Which move do we want to forget is the real question. I think that we can forget Dig. It's not going to be super useful against the League. And I think Rollout could be potentially significantly better in some spots. So I'm going to keep that move. Let's just see how this goes now. So now when we get to Meganium, we can go Ice Punch. It does about half here. We get the Razor Leaf miss and then just get the 2-hit KO. Now we can go for Surf on the Haunter after it curses, which is perfectly fine. And Sneasel is out last. I'll just stick with Surf right here as we get Feint Attack, but it's going to be an easy 2-hit KO. Even with Curse on, we're going to get through this time. So Ice Punch is definitely the play right there. We will skip Skull Bash yet again because I don't think it's really useful. But with that, we're ready to get through the rest of these randos and make our way to the final executive. And sure enough, we make it to the final executive here. So let's just see how he goes with our Surfing Squirtle. We one-shot against the Houndour, of course. Coughing comes out next. We can just go for Surf again, getting the 1-hit KO, and that brings out the Houndoom. It goes Feint Attack because it's faster than us, but Surf still gets the 1-hit KO, getting us to level 44. And with that, we're ready to now go to Claire's gym, and I think I'm going to stick with Ice Punch until just when I get to Claire, and then I think I'm going Blizzard with this one because we've already seen the ranges with the evolved forms. We know that we're not going to get the 1-hit KO very likely with the Ice Punch and Never Melt Ice. So Blizzard is the next logical play to actually get through this fight. I think it's perfectly reasonable at this point, especially with an unevolved Pokemon, to go for the stronger move, knowing that it's basically going to be one of the moves that stays on our moveset through the entire league, assuming that we can progress. So here we do manage to get through to Claire, but just as I expected, we just weren't dealing enough damage there. So I'm going to give the Blizzard since that's the obvious play to get through here. So I just learned Blizzard over Ice Punch, and it's time for the battle against Claire. Let's just see how she goes. First up, of course, she's going to have the Dragonair. Let's go Blizzard on this Pokemon, and that does get a 1-hit KO. Dragonair number 2 comes out. We can hit Blizzard again, getting an easy victory. Dragonair number 3, we miss the Blizzard. It misses the Thunder Wave. That's perfect. And now we can get to the final Kingdra. I'm gonna go for Blizzard once here because we could get a freeze. Called it. And now we'll start setting up Rollout. Unfortunately, we get the Rollout miss due to the smoke screen that she set up, and we get knocked out. We came in without enough PP in Zap Cannon, so that's clearly a mistake. Let me get the PP fixed and try this again. Obviously, HeiknBacon wanted to run Zap Cannon here. I think it is the best play there if we can paralyze that final Kingdra. So we just need to land the Blizzards before that to get through to that Pokemon. A couple attempts later, we are back to Kingdra once again. Let's go for Zap Cannon here just to see if we can paralyze this one to buy us some extra turns. We do get the paralysis. We can go for the Blizzards. Unfortunately, we miss. It just loves to set up the smoke screen on you here. We managed to survive against the Hyper Beam, but she's going to get in Hyper Potion range, and we're just not dealing enough damage with other moves, so we're getting knocked out there. Let's try this one again. Now, Hyper Beam from the Kingdra does a lot of damage here, so I think we actually want to build up Rollout, and that does enable us to finally get through. It took quite a few attempts there, but we did manage to beat Clair with our Squirtle. At the end of the day, though, Rollout was better than going for things like Blizzard and Zap Cannon on the final Kingdra, if and only if it doesn't go for a smokescreen against you. In the case that it starts going like Hyper Beam, that is definitely the best strat for getting through that one. But with that done, we can now just pick up our badge, and it's time to get to the Rival 5 fight and just see how he goes with this unevolved Pokemon. So here we are, HeiknBacon. It's time to take on Rival 5 with ShelShockr. Let's just see how this goes. He leads off with Sneasel, of course. I'm just going to go Surf against this Pokemon as he goes Screech. We'll get an easy 2-hit KO on that one. Out next will come the Magneton. Let's see if Surf gets the one-hitter on it. It does not. We end up having to use the Paralyzed Cure Berry there, but fortunately we still had it on. Now Meganium, I'm going for the Blizzard right here, and it's going to be a 2-hit KO as this Pokemon goes Reflect. Razor Leaf does a lot, but we still managed to get through, so that's perfectly fine. Golbat comes out. We're going to go for Blizzard yet again. It did a lot of damage with that wing attack. We get a level up here, though. We could learn Hydro Pump. I'm not sure if I want Hydro Pump or Surf. I think I'm just going to stick with Surf. We can always go Rain Dance Surf strats if we need to. So here, Haunter knocks me out with Shadow Ball because I had the Screech on. We're going to have to try this one again. It is a little bit of an issue being slower than the Sneasel, but this time no Screech, so we managed to get through just fine there. We'll stick with Surf on the Magneton. Thundershock did decent damage, but we do manage to get through. Meganium's out next. We missed the Blizzard. I think that's probably all she wrote for this one. This is where Squirtle's lack of speed is really starting to show up and make an impact, because we're not that fast at this point. Only 77 speed is way slower than most of the Pokemon that we've been running up to this point. So we kind of want Thunder Wave from the Magneton so that we can just 2-hit KO it there. And we're hoping for any non-damaging move from the Meganium. And this time we managed to get through with no Razor Leaf. So we're going to have more HP going to Golbat. We can go Blizzard here, getting the 1-hit KO. Once again, we'll skip Hydro Pump and move on to Haunter, where it goes Curse. We hit ourselves in Confusion, which is pretty bad. We need to land the Surf in order to get a victory, and the problem is that Kadabra is going to be faster than us. It goes Future Sight, and Surf does not 1-hit KO, so we lose yet again. We're going to have to keep trying at this one. It's not as straightforward as what we were dealing with previously with Wartortle. We're actually having a little bit of trouble here. This time we miss a bunch of Blizzards, so unfortunately we're just getting wrecked by Meganium. We're just going to have to reset for better luck on this fight. This time we get through Meganium with a Reflect, so that's perfectly fine. We can knock out the Golbat again here. Now we just need to land a hit on Haunter. We go for Surf. That's going to knock that one out, so that's perfectly fine. Kadabra is out after that. It goes Future Sight. We go for the Surf. And now it tries to Future Sight again, so we get the victory this time. It took quite a few attempts there, but ultimately we did manage to get through with the Squirtle. And HeiknBacon, you're on to the league, buddy. So let me just give a massive thank you to HeiknBacon. Already 16 months as a channel member supporting this Squirtle, already through the 5th gym. Can't thank you enough for all of your support. Let's keep running this up this year, and we're going to get this Squirtle, I think, pretty deep into the league. The main issue is going to be speed. There may be a lot of quick claw strats as we go through it, but I think it at least stands a chance of putting a pretty big dent in the league. And if it can find a way to get to Lance, Zap Cannon on the Gyarados, basically Blizzard on everything else is the strategy, and I think it can get the victory. So we're just gonna have to see if we get there or not, but I think Squirtle has a chance in this one, and that's the best that we can hope for. And it's all because we gave it Zap Cannon back at the beginning of the game. Anyway, with that being done, we have finished another episode, so let's get to our final breakdown and see what we've got coming next time. So at the end of the day, we get 11 Pokemon through this section of the game. Some of them were a little more random than others, but all of the legit challengers at least showed something that gives me a lot of faith that they're going to be able to keep going on. Charmander was obviously the one that struggled the most. Meganium also looked a little sus in some spots, but it is on to the league. Member picks also managed to get through, and next time we're going to be coming back with a little bit shorter of an episode. I had set out with this episode today to do it in the morning just for half of the day, and I think I started about 9:30 this morning, and it's currently almost midnight. Of course, in between, I've taken some breaks and had to be daddy and feed my baby boy and things like that. But I'm definitely seeing that even for the Pokemon that get through this section really easily, they're taking 20-25 minutes to get through just because there's such a large number of battles to take, so many things that you have to route around. So I may be reducing the number of Pokemon in future episodes to kind of balance that out and instead doing more episodes. Just got to keep in mind, guys, I'm making Pokemon content, but I've also got to be dad. I've also got to be a husband here at home and take care of the family front. So I'll probably just balance that by doing fewer Pokemon, but doing more episodes. Now, in case you haven't heard, I was planning to be full-time on YouTube from April, but a few things happened in life. I ended up being out of work now, which you would think means that I have a lot more time to dedicate to things, but it's actually been a little bit of the opposite. I've been dealing with a lot of family stuff. I may have an IRL Pokemon Challenges video talking about what's been going on between my old workplace and some of the family stuff, etc. that's been going on. But the fact of the matter is that I'm just trying to figure out right now what my best balance is with everything. So I'll be doing this series, of course, continuing. We're going to get it to the end. Don't you worry one bit. It is high on my priority list to work on the Clair Minimum Battle series and get us through the league this year. But at the same time, I'm also helping out RSE Pokemon Challenges, and we've spent most of January getting his overlay to at least work because Gen 3's data structures and data encryption in the games is nuts, and it took tons of time to get it working. Even had to call in Scott's Thoughts for a consultation on how to set up a ROM hack that would actually allow me to use some of the tools that I use with the Gen 3 games. They're that difficult to set up the way that I want them to work. So it just took a massive amount of time. And there are a lot of projects, therefore, dealing with overlay updates. You've clearly seen mistakes in this overlay that need to get fixed as I've been trying to update it. I'm slowly getting there, but it's just taking a little bit of time, guys. Got a little bit of other stuff to deal with. But as I get more settled in, I'm going to be trying to find that rhythm. Which days I make Minimum Battles series, which days I make some solo run content, and which days maybe I do a little bit of streaming content for you guys in lieu of doing videos, just so that I can balance things out a little bit better. If you're interested in that, definitely share your comments down below. When would you like to see streams? I may be doing it like Friday nights US time, or maybe Sunday nights US time. The only thing I can say for sure is it won't be Saturdays US time, because that is directly corresponding with when I will be spending time with my baby boy. I will generally be taking Saturday afternoons and Sundays off my time, plus somewhere else in the week, to just give myself a little bit of a rest as I get to kind of the rhythm of doing this Pokemon thing full time. It's definitely a trial run for now. We're going to see how it goes over the next 6 months or so, just to see. But all I can say is really thank you to everybody who watches the videos. Thank you to the channel members who support me so much and make it possible for me to spend so much time making videos. And just understand, if I'm doing a shorter video, it doesn't mean that I'm going to do less videos. It's actually the opposite. I'm trying to set it up so that I can do more content and spend more time on it without having like a massively long day that just burns me out. So just take that for what you will. I'm going to hopefully have this dialed in within another month or two, where we're going to know exactly what we're doing and how we're doing it. But for now, kind of long explanation, but next time let's come in with 6 challengers. We're going to come in with Butterfree, Pidgeot, Raticate, Fearow, Furret, and Noctowl. A bunch of Pokemon that I think are going to be really interesting here. The normal types I think are going to be perfectly fine. The flying types I'm very worried about, because even in the Clair gym, we're going to be dealing with Pokemon that have super effective moves against them. I'm not sure they're going to get through. Still, I think with rare candies, these 6 do progress at the very least, though we have already dropped some of those with Pidgeot and Fearow. But we'll also balance this one out, of course, with some member picks. We're going to have that member picks Centred up there, getting in on the action, and we may throw in something like Unknown or Jumpluff just for a little bit of variety there. We'll see how much time I have next week, but for now, my brain's kind of freezing up from this just massive day of grinding these Pokemon through this section of the game and working on the overlay and everything. But as usual, place your predictions down below. Tell me what strategies you think might work. Let's get into it next time and see. Anyway, that does it for this one. Appreciate you guys for hanging around. Sorry for the kind of long outro explanation, but it's basically just to say there's a lot more to come as we get more and more settled into this full-time thing on YouTube. Appreciate you guys for supporting me. I will see you in the next one. Later.